Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexiot's here. It's Wednesday, and today we're doing a Wow Wednesday on Fred Van Vleet appearing on the Sham show yesterday. Shams. I always want to say Shams because it's like that's how I pronounce it, but it's Shams. And Shams, if he was Shams, it kind of like be a bad name for him as far as like what his job is. Oh, it's a sham. No, it's a Shams. Shams. Anyway, a little dumb wordplay there. Anyway, he was on this live show yesterday. Or I think it was around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and I caught like the most of it. I caught like 3/4 of it. I missed the very first part, but I think most of the first part was talking about the Miami Boston series and Denver and the Lakers series, stuff like that. But yeah, Fred appeared on the show, and actually he did a good job. I thought he came off very professionally, coming on the show with Shams and just being just a really good guest, a very good analytical mind, talking about the series. Of course, he picked Miami to win the finals. I think he has to. Some of it is that they all picked Denver to win on the panel. And Fred wanted to do a nice thing for his guy, Kyle, and saying, I think that Miami's going to win. And he did say, I think they're going to win because of Kyle. Because, he has to pick them partly because of his friendship with Kyle Lowry. So, yeah, that was kind of cool. Seeing him with Pat Garrity, former Orlando Magic player, also there with him. We have a transcript of what Fred said about Nick Nurse and Adrian Griffin that I want to break down today. And then also, G has put in the comments, there is a letter from Nav Bhatia, the super fan, that he was with Nick this morning, and he has some comments to say, and I want to read that also and talk about what he said as well. All right, let me check with you guys in the comments real quick. First, Nameless is in the house. Bam, good to see Nameless. If the Raptors blow this thing up without trying a new coach first, if they squander that opportunity, I'm going to lose my mind and storm Scotiabank Arena right to Masai's office. Who's with me? I'm not with you because, listen, I think a little bit of a blow up is warranted. I've said this before. It's like, listen, we're not tearing the whole thing down. It's just that we may still need to go further with, fixing our team from last year. And in some ways, it may not just be the coach we got to get going out of here. There may be a player that could really help with that culture also, that could kind of help make things better. I do not know who that is or why or what they need to go for or the trade or whatever. But I do know that there are very likely going to be some more moves, Nameless. So I expect fully the Raptors to make a big, huge trade of some sort at some point this summer. I don't really want them to make a big, huge trade to move up in the draft, like what's been rumored recently. I'd like to see them do a big, huge trade with one of these big, huge names that might be on the free agency market, or not free agency, that might be unhappy somewhere else and want to be moved. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I think there will be a little bit of a mini blow up, but not a complete blow up. Like maybe one or two of our guys from last year go somewhere, and hopefully we get a really premium top level kind of player that can be added to the mix. So yeah, all right, I'm not totally with you. I'm not totally with you because I want to let Masai. This is Masai's time to work, and as Isaac's put in his next comment, trust Masai is greater than the process. And I'm going to just trust Masai. This is his season to do his magic and do his work really intensely. So we're going to hopefully see Masai hitting some home runs out of the park very soon with a great head coach hire and maybe some very big offseason moves this summer. So we'll have to see what happens. All right, G has said Superfan has posted about Nurse in his Instagram. He spent time with him this morning, so guessing he is still here. Yeah, let's go ahead and read that letter now since G has brought it up. In some ways, it infuriates me, but in some ways, I understand why Nav is being this way, because this is kind of who he is. He's an ambassador to the whole entire sport of the NBA. And he's also, our representative, but he's really gracious and just turns the other cheek kind of guy. He's a very, very nice guy. In fact, we've talked recently in recent months. Maybe he's too nice with the whole thing that happened with DR DeRozan. Maybe he's just a little bit too nice, Nav Bhatia. But you know what? I won't fault you. You are your own personality. You be you. We love you either way. But yeah, here's what Nav said this morning. It's very interesting. This was posted 43 minutes ago, so literally just before 9. Was able to spend some time this morning with Coach Nurse. I thanked him for a lot of things. how he embraced our country and our communities. Okay, yeah, you have a relationship with our communities, Nick. Just to remind you real quick, how much he did for our youth through his foundation. Yes, and that is appreciated. And I hope that his foundation is successful in the United States or wherever he does it. If he continues to do it here in Canada, that's fantastic. But yes, the Nick Nurse Foundation is a great thing, and I am very proud of it for him and glad that he does it. That's a great thing. And of course, bringing a championship to Canada. Yes, of course, Raptors fans will be thankful and grateful for his part as the coach of our championship team in 2019. But still, here's where it turns. And this is what he says. Knob says the business of sports can be ugly, and legacy should be based on what you have done for us, not what you have done for us lately. Now, see, all right. And this is where we're going to diverge once again, Nav and I, because Nav is like very much a Vince guy too. He very much is very close with Vince Carter, and he's always been totally forgiving towards Vince Carter this whole entire time, and went places where I have not been. That's what I'm saying. This statement right here is, yeah, the business of sports can be ugly. And you know what? In some ways, I'm not feeling like Nick Nurse is a victim in all this. Why are you guys treating him like he's a victim? Knobs treating him like a victim. When I read Fred's statement, you're going to be like, why does it sound like he's treating him like a victim? Was Nick Nurse a victim in this situation, Nav Bhatia? I don't think so. I really, really don't think he was a victim. Let's see. A legacy should be based on what you have done for us. I can say that's true. That, we will have a legacy with Nick no matter what. But how we go about with this legacy and our relationship with him, some of it is actually up to Nick. Knob. So, in some ways, why would we love and adulate him and be like, oh, you're the best and all this stuff, if he's going to be such an asshole and turn his back on us and do what he's doing right now? Honestly, he's not a good leader, Nav. He's a really, really poor example for a leader. And yeah, and not what have you done for us lately? Yeah, in fact, you know what? Listen, Nav, what he has done for us lately is sabotage our team this last year and have us have a really, really bad season in some ways because he wasn't the correct version of Nick Nurse. And listen, you can be forgiving and be like, turn the other cheek, all this kind of stuff. But until I hear something from Nick, this isn't going to make up for it, Nav. I'm sorry. This does not make up for it. You're going to write the letter for Nick? Is that what you're trying to do with this? That you're trying to write the letter that Nick should have wrote for him just because you stand next to him in a picture and you got him in there with you? That doesn't count. We need to hear it directly from him, or even just somebody in a rep of his. He doesn't have to write it himself. He could just put it out in his name, and he wouldn't even have to do it if he's so petty. But he can't even do that bare minimum. That's just disgusting to me, because in some ways, like everybody says, Toronto is just not just Toronto. Toronto is the whole country of Canada. And this man doesn't understand what he's doing. Now, sure, casuals and people are just so happy, cheery, positive people will be like, oh, we love Nick no matter what. But a lot of people that are real Raptor fans like me are like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Why is he such a jerk? And we just want some sort of closure here. We as fans paid money. We're invested in this team all year long. And we put so much into it. And to see it so confusing, so weird, so like, what the hell is going on? We deserve something from Nick. We don't deserve all the answers or what happened, but we deserve something from him. And honestly, it just makes him look so bad now. I mean, you're a classy dude writing this letter for him, but honestly, Nick looks so horrible right now, like with what he's been doing since he got fired. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. Nav also says here, thank you for all you did for our organization over a decade. You helped change the basketball landscape here. That's not untrue. And I can thank him for that also. Philly is blessed to have you. I don't know about that, Nav. I don't know about that statement. Philly is blessed to have him. Maybe some people could look at it that way. Well, we're blessed to have him, but I don't know if that will be what the outcome is in the end when it all turns out. I don't think that Philly fans in Philadelphia will be feeling blessed by the end of the Nick Nurse tenure. Watch. My friends Freddie and Alan will be sure to look after you. Who's Freddie and Alan? I don't care. They're probably like super fans for Philly or something. Yeah, I think it's that weird guy Freddie, that super fan that's the Philly super fan or something. I don't know. And then Nav saying, I know me and every Raptors fan wishes you the best in Philly. No, we don't. No, we don't. He's saying before and after the game for 48 minutes, you're going to hear it from me from by your bench. Ha ha ha. I hope you do give him the grief, Nav, in the middle of the game. And I understand what you're saying. You wish him the best other than in the games. But I don't. I don't wish him the best in that way. I wish him good health. I wish him good for his family, and I wish him good for life in general. But I don't want him to have a nice time in Philly, and I don't want him to have a good time in the games for damn sure. You will always be our all-star coach, our coach of the year, and our NBA championship coach. All right, I'll give him one of those. The other two of them, I'm going to say more. Coach Casey, coach of the year. Love him. All-star coach. Coach Casey, once again, he coached in the all-star game also at one point. Yeah, he is. But Nick is definitely our NBA championship coach. And Nick will have those other monikers. But honestly, in some ways, I want to put Casey more important in the history of the Raptors more as we go forward. Just because Casey did things right, and we really do love Casey in a lot of ways. All right, so Nick's and Nab's also saying, and remember, once a Raptor, always a Raptor. Love from the super fan. I don't know if Nick's going to remember that, Nav. I do not think that Nick's going to remember once a Raptor, always a Raptor. I don't think he would agree with that. Nick looks in the picture, looking at it, he looks like, okay, he's got his bag. It looks like he may be on his way out. He looks a little teary-eyed, like he's a little bit like cryy. He's been looking old, all frazzled and not like polished like he should, like normally. Very much since last fall. He's looked, all his face is always looking red. His eyes are always looking watery. And he's always looking a little nervous and like kind of hurt. Like even in this picture with Nav, he looks hurt. Like if you go and look at the picture, he looks like he may have been crying a lot. And he also looks like, he just looks like he looks like shit. Let's just put it that way. He looks like shit. He doesn't look like the polished, have it together Nick Nurse that we've known in other eras of the Raptors. He's kind of looked like shit for like half a year now. And I think it's the stress. I don't know what's going on with him. Now, there's something that Fred said in his Sham show that it was very telling in itself. All right, let me keep going with the comments. But yeah, there's Nav's message to him. And I'll tell you what I said to Nav after that. I wrote him a comment afterward. I said in his Facebook post of this, I said to Nav, glad you have more class than him. We wish luck with his family and life, but not on the court. A simple statement from him would have gone a long way, but alas, we see how petty he is compared to Doc, Monty, and Coach Bud. That's what I said on Nav Bhatia in a comment on that post with Nick Nurse from this morning. Yeah, that's what I said straight to Nav. And whoever, I hope Nick reads it. I hope you read what I wrote, Nick Nurse. Yeah, I hope you do. Mike saying, salute the real ones, Project Truth always. Yesterday, I saw this video come up, and I found the video for Fred VanVleet on the show. Great insight. Respect, Lex, for pointing it out. Yeah, it was live when I watched it on Twitter, on Sham's Twitter page. And yeah, it was really just a dumb luck thing. I'm doing my work. I'm doing stuff, and I come across something. Well, and we got enough time raised that Monique got in there and watched it too for a bit. It was very interesting. Most of it just centered around the finals and talking about the two teams going to the finals and how they look at how the series is going to go. But there was some talk with Fred about his former coaches that have just recently took new jobs. And there's a little bit of a difference between what Fred said about Nick and what Fred said about Adrian. And I want to point those things out today. That's part of what we're doing today on the video, talking about what Fred said about these new hires of their former coaches. So it should be very, very interesting. All right, let's see. Trevor's saying we do not need to blow anything up. We got a good team. Trust the front office. I'm with you. Just a tinker, like a couple of moves. Let's get a move that makes everybody like really excited because there's a new player coming that we know is really good. And if they add their powers with the guys that are still here, that we get excited about the prospect of. That's what the move I want to see. I want to see a move where we get kind of a needle pusher. Somebody that's like, holy crap, we got Kyle Kuzma. And he's coming in and he's going to be a Raptor this year to play next to Scotty Barnes. It's that kind of thing I'm looking for. Get a new coach and get somebody like Kyle Kuzma. And then boom, all of a sudden the Raptors have a new look slightly with a new player that's kind of added into the mix and see how that works. So I'm all about it. All right. Fiercey's saying, good morning, fam. How can we view the Fred VanVleet interview with Shams? Well, if anybody's got the link, go ahead and post it in the chat for Fiercey so she can watch it also. Now, I'm going to read a transcript of it, Fiercey, right now, so you can hear what he said exactly. Let's start with what he said about Nick Nurse. This is Fred VanVleet on the Shams show yesterday. This is why he's talking about Fred's talking about Nick Nurse coming to Philadelphia. And he says a different voice they haven't heard before. So yeah, that's true. This is why you do coaches changes. This is the description of why is what Fred's saying. Something outside the box. He'll bring new ideas, creative ideas, breath of fresh air for them. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's why you do a coaches change. We need a breath of fresh air up here too, and we will have somebody new coming in with new creative ideas also. Hopefully, the younger, better version than Nick Nurse. As far as like Nick was that guy 5 years ago. Well, is Jordy Fernandez that guy now, this 5 years later? And that's what I'm wondering. So I'm interested in this. But yeah, of course, Nick's going to come there and he's going to do things a little bit different than Doc. For sure, he'll be different than Doc. I don't know if that'll be better or not. Doc's more of a player's coach in some ways. All right. Fred's also saying anytime you're changing coaches, that's pretty much what you're looking for, a new voice, a new identity for guys to rally behind. Yeah, see, when somebody loses their team, then it's really hard for the guys to get rallied behind them. And I think that's been one of the biggest problems for the Raptors this year is that the Raptors had a hard time rallying behind Nick Nurse by the end of the season. And yeah, when that's happening like that, you need to get rid of the coach so you can get somebody new that they can rally behind. And a probably very similar thing with Philadelphia, although I thought Doc was still getting decent effort out of his guys right up until they got eliminated by Boston. Also, Fred's saying, I think coming down the stretch, pretty much had to get Joel on board. I think once they got that Nick met with Joel. And as long as he's signing off on all the crazy things the coach wants to do to them, I think they'll be in a good spot. He thinks they'll be in a good spot. He doesn't know for sure. But yeah, he thinks. All right. So he's saying that coming down the stretch of the coach's search for Philly, they had to get Joel on board on the idea of Nick coaching him. And then once they got it, Nick it was all gravy and they could come him in there. If they only had like a surface level talk, a very small talk or something like that, I don't think that that's enough to really mend things or keep things cool with them. They're going to really need, like, this is what I'm going to have to see for this. I shouldn't talk about this too much, but the only way this will work is if Nick treats Joel like he treats Fred here, that he's going to have to really much make Joel his teacher's pet. And he's going to have to be like, whatever Joel says, I back up and I go with. In fact, in some ways, Nick Nurse might have to be like a yes man to Joel and to the detriment of the other guys. So in some ways, he's got to make Joel happy, at least. I don't think he worries about Maxey. I don't think he worries about any of the other Sixers as much. Maybe Harden if he's still around. But Embiid is important. So in some ways, Nick Nurse has to kiss his ass. And in some ways, he really may have to cater his plans for the Sixers around Joel and making him happy. Because if he's not making him happy, that could be the way that Nick gets in big trouble on this team, as far as like Joel's like tunes him out and doesn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. So there's all kinds of pitfalls where they can go different directions. And a very superficial, small meeting that they've had in the last week where Joel's like, oh, okay. Knowing Joel's personality, he's so flaky and goofy. He could be like okay with Nick Nurse on like a one day in the morning when he meets him. And then like a couple days later, he's like, yeah, I don't really like him after all. So yeah, this is going to be a big problem down the road for Philly. I'm just going to be counting the days until it's Nick Nurse versus Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. And when that grudge match starts happening between the two of them within the organization of the Sixers, yeah, get the popcorn out, Raptors fans. We will have some side entertainment for the NBA because I'm serious. This sounds so flaky. Like he's saying not after he met with him and he signed off on all the crazy things that coach wants to do. Well, we know crazy things that Nick likes to do. Some of them are really stretching the possibilities of what a human can do. And, these guys, they're not the athletes that the Raptors are in Sixers land. So we'll see if they can do the crazy things that coach wants them to do. Yeah, there may be some frustration from Nick that he doesn't get the same results out of his roster as he did here in Toronto as far as the athletes on the team. So, yeah, we'll see how he gets those crazy things happening. All right. Now, also, Fred said he'll have some success, hopefully not too much, if I'm not there and I'm staying in Toronto. Now, this is such the most focal point of everything that Fred said yesterday, and everybody's talking about that if. Now that was a really weird tell when he said that at that point. Now Fred really kind of like when he said it, he kind of and then he was like, and I'm staying in Toronto. I don't know how to read this. In some ways, that makes me have hope that Fred is still keeping the option of staying in Toronto. But also, Philly fans are reading it as like, if I'm not there, meaning like he's thinking about being in Philly with Nick Nurse. That the thing about that is it doesn't really fit unless y'all are getting rid of Maxi. A backcourt of Van Vleet and Maxi doesn't work, and those guys are not going to be like one of them off the bench. And I talked about putting Fred on the bench here and maybe getting away with it here, but I don't think you'd be able to get away with it with him coming in new and fresh, and especially if Nick's going to be his coach in Philadelphia. He'll teacher's pet him and he'll give him everything he wants. There's a reason why Fred is such a huge fan of Nick, because Nick is such a huge fan of Fred, and he really propped him up and overplayed him in the last couple years. So maybe in some ways Fred is factoring in, oh, maybe I should follow Nick because we know he's a coach in this league that will definitely play me and he knows me inside out. Yeah, I took this statement as being kind of 50-50 negative and positive for us, as far as he's saying, if I'm not there or I'm staying in Toronto, meaning that option of him staying in Toronto is still very much in his mind. In fact, there was one point where Pat Garrity said to the panel, teams today should try and keep their core players together for a longer time so they have time to gel and make chemistry over years. And Fred nodded his head yes when Pat Garrity said that. And in some ways, I took that as him saying he does believe in building a core group with guys together. So in some ways, I think Fred may be still trying to stay in Toronto. So who knows? And I do like that he said this. He said, then we want him to fail. But other than that, I'm happy he landed on his feet. Now, this is so loaded right here. So he's saying he if he's not on the team with Nick in Philadelphia, he wants him to fail. And I'm with that. I'm totally with that. And Fred, when you said that, I was like, okay, Freddie is still a real competitor, a real one, and he's not just a teacher's pet. But the last part that is really interesting to me, he said, I'm happy he landed on his feet. Now, I have a couple things to say here, and I might burn Fred a little bit like this. Listen, in today's economic climate, with the greedy ass grocery companies gouging all the people in this world for like money at the top, with price gouging going up, all these different things, y'all are really not in touch with what it means to land on your feet. That you guys saying like, oh, I'm glad he landed on his feet. This motherfucker has made millions of dollars over the last few years. And when you describe something, I'm glad he landed on his feet, that's kind of insulting to people that are earning like minimum wage and just barely getting by, and they have to try and land on their feet on a daily basis. Nick Nurse was going to be fine no matter what. And the fact that you cared and you're like, oh, I'm so worried about him landing on his feet. The other thing, this was all calculated by him, Fred, and you know that because you're in his representation group. So it's not like he got put in a situation that was uncomfortable for him where he's like, oh my gosh, he's got to land on his feet. That sounds so dumb, Fred. Like, seriously, Nick was going to be fine no matter what. First of all, because he's a millionaire. Second, because he's a sought after coach and he was going to get a job no matter what if we fired him. So maybe there was some sort of sympathy for Nick when we fired him. I mean, there is a tell that Fred said at one point, he said that was the direction they decided to go in. And when he said they, I was kind of like, he means Messiah in them, but he doesn't include himself in the they, because he disagreed with firing Nick Nurse is basically what I got from Fred. So I don't know how to read this completely. In some ways, I'm insulted that Fred was happy he landed on his feet, because seriously, those are like first world problems. You're talking about, Fred. Seriously, that statement is for people that have food stamps. That statement is for people that have a hard time paying the rent, and not for a glorified coach with an egomaniac problem who has millions of dollars. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't worried about him landing on his feet, but I'm glad you were. And I know it's mostly because of your friendship with him, and I get it. Let's see. Also, Fred saying our situation was our situation, and coming down the stretch, they decided to go different ways, but I'm just happy he landed on his feet. That's just so dumb. I don't understand why he says that. Good to see him back with another job. Are you sure, Fred? Are you sure it's good to see him back with the Philadelphia 76ers of all the teams? I mean, seriously, this is messed up, bro. But yeah, he's saying our situation was our situation, And coming down the stretch, they decided to go different ways. All right. So he's basically saying they decided, meaning Messiah and them and the power structure of the Raptors. And when he puts that preposition of they on those guys, that's taking him out of the decision himself, saying that he is not a part of that decision, or maybe he didn't agree with that decision. That's what you can read through that statement, and the way it's worded is they decided to go in a different direction. He didn't say we decided to go in a different direction. Fred did not say we decided to go in a different direction. So he really didn't want to fire Nick Nurse. He seriously didn't. And from the end of the season interview that he did, it makes sense that he didn't want him, because he said, I fully expect Nick to be our coach next year, and I like Coach Nick and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in Fred's statement here. Really, really weird. Good to see him back with another job. Really, that job, Fred? Really, really? Oh my gosh. And then there's a question given to him. Have you gotten any calls from Joel Embiid or James Harden? Like, what am I getting into? And Fred's like, I haven't gotten a call, but they may be calling after training camp trying to figure out how to read him. This is hilarious, because I could see this. Like, I could see them, the Sixers, showing up to training camp if Harden's still there, and them being like, what the hell is he doing to us? Because, Fred describes Nick as crazy, as like demanding, as kind of like, what he's got to do. He will ask a lot of them, and he doesn't really describe him in the same way that he describes Adrian. And we'll talk about that in a second when we do Adrian statements that he does. But like, this is hilarious. So Fred's kind of expecting some of the Sixers to call him and to ask him, why the hell is Nick like this? Oh my gosh. This is kind of hilarious and crazy. All right. He's definitely a different guy, but certainly one of the top coaches in the NBA. And we saw that with us winning a championship. That bond we have, it's a lifelong thing. Now, I can't disagree with any of that. Of course, you can have a lifelong bond with him, and I think you should. And you're right. Winning an NBA championship is a really big deal. And this is all true right here. But he's definitely a different guy. That says a lot right there. What does it mean? He's a different guy. I don't know. Well, all right. So that's Fred's statement on Nick Nurse getting hired by the Philadelphia 76ers. He's got a couple of lines drawn there where he's like, if and they are words that are very key in that statement, if you go look at it. All right. Now, contrasting what he said about Nick with Adrian, this is what he said about Adrian Griffin on the Bucks. Similar wheelhouse or philosophy, obviously being with Coach Nurse. They work closely together. Griff was in charge of our defense for most of those years. So him being like a defensive coordinator. Now, this is great because like that makes sense. I always thought Adrian was our more defensive coach, and now it's been for sure said here by Fred. And in some ways, that's really going to be good for Milwaukee. They're already a good defensive team, and Adrian will continue that good defensive level for the Bucks. And Bucks fan, you should be happy about your hire. I will say you guys did a good job. I won't say that for Philly. Philly's going to be a disaster, but Adrian's going to do really well in Milwaukee. I know he will. And in some ways, I'm going to hate seeing him beat us, but I'll be happy and proud of him because this is the difference. It's like he did things right in a lot of ways than you, Nick. And, hopefully we'll hear something from Adrian towards Toronto. But if he doesn't, it's not that important. The head coach is much more important. You don't actually hear I did see an assistant coach say thank a city when they were departing recently, and they will do it. But who knows? Maybe we'll get a statement from Adrian still. Who knows? Then he says, got close to getting a job a few years ago, but it didn't end up working out. So just happy he was able to get that job. And what a great first job to have with Giannis, Drew, and Chris Middleton. Yeah, this is a really good job, and I'm surprised that Nick didn't take him before him because, like, honestly, he could have taken that job himself. Fresher voice, a former player who has been through the mud, has a great coaching tree of coaches he's worked with. Great guy, great family. I got a lot of love for Coach Griffin. I think he'll be very successful. Now, see, in some ways, he's saying it different. He knows that Coach Griffin will probably very much be successful. Milwaukee's just like that. And you add that ingredient into that pool, and it fits, and it works really well. So the Bucks did make a very healthy, smart hire, and I think that he's right too. I think that Fred's right here, and this is the part that you won't hear on Nick Nurse's side. Great guy. That's the thing. And some people were saying, okay, the difference between what Fred said about Adrian and what he said about Nick Nurse is that he said Adrian's a great guy, a nice guy, and Nick isn't. He's crazy. So there you go. Analyzing Fred VanVleet live yesterday, talking about the new hires of Adrian Griffin and Nick Nurse to Milwaukee and Philadelphia, and how Fred looks at it and views it. A couple of tells there, couple little things for hope for Philadelphia Nation that Fred might be in their jersey next year. If Fred does do that, I'll be like, so be it. And that could be actually pretty funny to see that happen. But in some ways, I still want Fred to stay company, man, and just stay here. North over everything, Fred. It's up to you, man, in some ways. Like, listen, Clutch works for you. Don't let them tell you what you should do. You tell them what you want to do. That's how you should be operating with Clutch. Seriously. All right, let's keep going with the comments. As above, so below. Good to see you as I am here. We need the right coach, not a quick hire. Well, we've definitely been taking our time. Been a month already now, over a month that we've been looking for a coach, and we are taking our time. I, once again, will say we will have a coach by Saturday. Watch, as above, so below. And it's, we've got it whittled down to like a short list. I was talking with Stevie Roots last night about who our short list is right now. Jordy Fernandez, #1 assistant for the Sacramento Kings under Mike Brown. Sergio Scarioli, the former assistant coach of our championship 2019 Raptors team, is a top candidate finalist. And then the other one is a mystery. It's been speculated it could be Doc Rivers. It's been speculated it could be Steve Nash. It's been speculated it could be JJ Redick. Now, I don't think JJ Redick's very likely. And Philly fans are kind of mad they hired Nick Nurse. So there was a contingency of Philly fans that actually wanted JJ to get the job in Philadelphia. That's very interesting to me. But yeah, I don't know if the third candidate finalist for the Raptors is Doc Rivers or Steve Nash or somebody completely different that I haven't mentioned right now. It could be Darko Rajakovic, or it could be Kenny Atkinson. I don't know. Those are a couple of the names that have been in the finalist kind of talk. And of course, they're not telling everybody, but two of them we know for sure. Two of them are Jordy and Sergio. And I don't know what the third one is. Fiercely saying Yahoo Sports posted Nick Nurse's final jam session in Canada. Okay, what is that? I want to look at that. Where is this? I want to look at that live and see what's going on. Yahoo Sports, his final jam session in Canada. You're talking about when he played or something? All right, where is the NBA? I'll Google the NBA page and see if there's a Nick Nurse's final jam session on Yahoo. Post a link if you can in there, and when I get to it, I'll see if I can look at it. All right, let's see. Cool Cat saying, "Good morning, Raptor Freak crew. I want to know if Scoop Shams released on Raptors came from Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet now adding media to his portfolio. CBA, Fred VanVleet too expensive. He publicly campaigning for top dollars. I don't totally understand your statement, Cool Cat, but I'll try and work it out. So you're saying that Shams had a scoop and that Fred was there, and you think that the scoop came from Shams, from Fred to Shams? Could be. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard the Shams news, so I can't really suss out if that sounds like it would come from Fred. Fred was already doing shows like this. This isn't the first time he's been on a show like he was on yesterday. So it's not like it's a new thing. He's doing media. And I have no problem with it because he's very intelligent. He's very well spoken. And most often he doesn't step in it when he's on these kind of shows. Some guys could be a dangerous person to be on live internet show like that show he was on yesterday, because he may say something stupid and mess up their career. Well, Fred's pretty good at being smart about what he's saying. And he's really, really polished, and he's really confident in those shows. He came off really well, like an expert. And I don't have any problem with him doing that. Honestly, I think that that's a good thing for him to have as a side portfolio thing in his media stuff, because he's very intelligent and well-spoken, and he has good opinions. So professionals saying Nick Nurse is here in Philly. So you've seen him in Philly already. Maybe he had that bag and he's on his way out. Maybe Nav was at the airport with him saying, "Hey, Nick, we'll see you." He saw him off at the airport. Maybe Nav got his plane, his limo for him, and he rode in the limo to the game to the airport with him. Who knows? Yeah, he could be in Philly already. That's the thing, man. Nick, you're just really fucking up, man. Seriously, you're fucking up your legacy. And even Nav Bhatia knows that because he's mentioned it in his letter that, legacies matter what you did, not how you left. That's bullshit, Nav. That's bullshit. Because there's so many people that have been in the Raptors organization that have come and gone, and a lot of them have good standing with us. There's only very few that I have problems with, and they're for very good reasons. Alonzo Mourning. I have a good reason for not liking Alonzo Mourning. I have a good reason for being mad at Vince Carter for quitting as a player. So I have a good reason to not like Nick Nurse for quitting as a coach. It is very much what have you done for me lately in the coaching world of the NBA, and that's why he got fired. So yeah, go ahead, Nav, and stand up for him as a positive super fan and all that kind of stuff. I'll be like a one that's still thinking about the whole thing. And Nick can do things to smooth this over. There's really no reason why he has to be at odds with the fans and ignore them and not make a statement towards us. Because seriously, you'd be mad at Masai and the organization for firing you like they should have all you want, but you have a relationship with the country of Canada, the citizens of Toronto, the basketball fans, the young people, the people that like Monique, like me, that have been your fan and talks, been so much like into like rooting for you and like wanting the best for you. And now this is how it goes like this. Yeah, it just makes you look bad in so many different ways. And in some ways, I care about you that I don't want you to look like an asshole. And, I can't help but say you are an asshole at this point. It's so crazy. Mike saying, I don't know if you think Masai was upset at role definition and attitude of dog not being there. It's logical to think that the coaches weren't on the same page, but do you make an extreme move if that's the main reason? Um, he was definitely upset about development. I mean, like I said, Nick could have made it more clear what he wanted specific guys on this team to be good at and have bread and butter. He wanted everybody to be a jack of all trades. He wanted each one of them to be a Swiss Army knife that could do everything all at once, but not so good. In some ways, what you want to do is pick things that they're very, very good at and really focus on them in some ways and not have this like general average Super Mario Brothers Mario character that you have to be good at everything, passing, shooting, rebounding, everything. The Vision 6'9" says that. Well, in some ways, he could have specified roles in ways that the Raptors could have been way more effective at winning games. And the ambiguity of jobs and roles on the court were just picked up and fell through the cracks often because nobody really knew who was supposed to do what. And that's his fault. He should have defined who should be taking care of responsibilities in certain situations better. Other than, oh, this is what you do in this hurry up defense where you have to rotate. No, I'm talking about on offense. Like, this is your bread and butter, Scotty. We're going to set you up and you're going to do this over and over again. I'm talking about this and this and this. And oh, you're a specialist, Koloko. You're a shot blocker specialist off the bench. And I specifically bringing you in for defensive purposes on this. He didn't do any of that kind of stuff. It was very like general, everybody's the same kind of weird ways that he ran this team. So yeah, role definition was an issue. I don't know if that's specifically something Masai got upset about, but it may have been part of his argument about how he didn't get more development out of those guys or get more out of them because he didn't define their roles correctly. So yeah, you get ready for that, Philadelphia. Maybe some ambiguity about who's supposed to be doing what, and a lot of jobs falling through the cracks. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Randolph's here. Good to see Randolph Phillips, beloved Raptor Freaks, most informative gang. Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm hoping that the stars of the Nuggets stay healthy for them to take the series and the championship. That's right. Tomorrow, game 1 of the finals 2023, June the 1st. Miami Heat at Denver Nuggets. Be ready. I'll have your ref report tomorrow telling you exactly who the referees are for game 1 and who they favor. It'll be very interesting to see the first game of the finals. Miami at Denver tomorrow night. Yeah, I'm all about it. And blessings to you, Randolph. Always good to see your name in the chat in the morning. Fiercely saying, yep, cool cat. We see it now. He's no longer hiding it. I see Fred having a podcast and or commentating on games later in his career. I think that'd be a great second career for Fred. I think he could do pretty good. I think it'd be maybe more likely he may do something exactly what you're saying, a podcast like JJ's. It could very well be that he wants to do something like JJ Redick's Old Man in the 3 podcasts where he talks to other players from the past, like or in the NBA currently, with him after he's retired. So who knows? He's not going to be like Draymond and doing double duty, I hope, or Danny Green doing the green room during the season while they're playing. I don't know if he wants that much of a distraction. And he also probably understands that people like Chris Boucher, who do Hustle Play podcasts, they walk a tightrope where they could kind of cause controversy at any point in time if they're going to be on podcasts spouting opinions and thinking, saying this or that. Well, you can step in it if you're not smart. And Fred, in some ways, is a personality like me. He's not afraid to say what he means and what he feels, and that could get him in trouble. That can get him in trouble. So I think if he's going to do a podcast, he's going to wait until after he retires so that it's not something that can be a distraction for him while he's playing. Because, that's the tightrope that you walk when you do a show like Draymond does. Is like, seriously, you get a lot more aggravation, a lot more attention. You may get receipts put in your face for something dumb you said about something in the game, and then it churns and it changes and you look stupid for what you said. There's all kinds of stuff to it. So in some ways, I don't encourage active NBA players to do these kind of shows. I do Chris because he does it very specifically, and Mike Roach is there, and they're doing a good job of not causing any controversy from that show. In fact, they're causing a lot of answering questions, which is a much better force the other way. So I think he's smart in that way. He's like, I don't want to mess with any kind of problems that don't need to happen just because I want to do a podcast. But he could do one, and he'd do a really good one. So we'll see. Fun guys here. Good to see I'm a fun guy. I say we grab Monty Williams or Doc Rivers and modify our roster and keep going for winning. Maybe trade OG, get a solid 2 next to Fred, and some bench pieces. Well, that's a route that could happen. It's weird. We have not heard Monty Williams associated with the Raptors job at all. We heard it associated with Detroit and maybe a little bit with Philadelphia. But he's not really in the picture. I really do think him and Coach Bud are taking a year off, that they're not interested in any of the jobs, and they're not trying to get any of the jobs right now. Now, if Coach Bud gets hired by the Suns all of a sudden, well, I'll be like, holy crap, he was available. That'd be weird. But we'll see. I don't know if Monty is in our radar at this point. I'm not hearing anything about Toronto and Monty. And Doc, the relationship between Doc and Masai is there. But I don't know if he's actually a realistic candidate for us. I think that Sixers fans would laugh if we swapped coaches. And they would be like, yeah, you guys got the worst coach. And in some ways, I might agree with them. The Doc Rivers is a downgrade from Nick Nurse. And they are definitely getting an upgrade on their side. But it's not exactly a fit, is what I'll say to Philly fans. It's not exactly a fit. You guys are getting an upgrade. I will agree with that. And if we took Doc Rivers at this point, I feel like it would be a downgrade from Nick. So, yeah, I'm not into that. Trading OG, well, whatever. Let's hear the offer. Let's hear what we're getting coming back, and then let's talk. Clutch is involved in all that. And, as much clutch out as good possible at this point, hey, I'm all for it. We said clutch free yesterday. We can get clutch free with the Raptors. Hey, as much as possible, that might be good. G saying he wasn't a victim, but Masai saying people can dream to get him, and giving him that unconditional confidence may have set this up in a way. Not blaming Masai either, just unfortunate circumstance. Yeah. I look at that picture. Let me look at that picture of Nick once again. Yeah, man, he's in his head, bro. He does look really sad and cryy about getting on a plane and getting the hell out of Canada and being in Philadelphia today. He does look really, really sad in that picture with Nav Bhatia. Yeah. All right, let's see. Yeah, Fred and everybody who thinks that Nick is a victim in this situation, he's not. He's not. If anybody's a victim in this situation, it's the players first for having to go through such a muddled, confusing, bad season with bad chemistry and weirdness, as Chris Boucher put it. They're victims because of such a bad feeling around the team. And then in some ways we are, because we're confused and we do not know what the fuck happened. And in some ways we're like, this is our team and we want to know and we want to get better and we want to know why our team happened the way it did. Well, we may never know. So in some ways, Nick is not the victim in this situation in any kind of way. Fred in some ways is more of a victim in this situation. And we are kind of like, I don't want to even say we're victims. We're just like bystanders. They're like, what the is going on? Is kind of like who we are. It's crazy. Monique is here. Good morning, everyone. Fred, and more Fred. Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I'm still kind of on the fence with Fred. I love Fred. I want him to stay with us, but if he goes, I'm like, okay, you want to go, you go. I'm not going to stop you in some ways. So it's like, I don't know how to handle Fred until the dust clears and we know where his decision is and what he's doing. Then we'll know how to treat him. And if he is in Philadelphia with Nick, that's going to be kind of weird. It'll be weird in some ways. I don't know. I'll have to analyze how that fit would be, but man, it's so weird. It's just very strange. All right, random gamers here. He's saying, okay, so Fred and OG to Philly, right, guys? Well, do you want to give us Maxi? Trade us Maxi. Put Maxi and Paul Reed in that deal, and maybe we can do it. Fred and OG for Maxi and Paul Reed. How about that, random gamer? I'll do a little wheeling and dealing with you as Bobby Webster real quick. We'll do Maxi. Maxi, only Maxi. That's the first thing you better put in that package. If you're getting those two guys, you're getting Maxi, come to us, and we'll take Paul Reed also. How about that? Will you do that deal? I don't think you will. In some ways, you might. Maybe you would. Tell me, random gamer, would you trade OG and Fred for Maxi and Paul Reed? I don't want anybody else. I want those two guys. I want Tyrese Maxey and I want Paul Reed. Those are the two guys I want. I don't want any of the other stuff, Sixers. I don't give a shit about any of the rest of them. I want those two. And then maybe we can talk about this. I still think we're overpaying for those two guys because in some ways Reed is not a starter, and we're getting your absolute best young player for sure, and probably your second best young player. But you get two of our starters. Yeah, I do it for that maybe. Oh, and we get more. We get picks also. We get Maxey, Reed, and a first round pick, and you can have OG and Fred. How about that? How about that? How about that? Does that work? Does that work? Yeah, there we go. G Sam for who? I think I just said it. Cool Cat saying Nav should not get involved with the politics of basketball. He should stay out of it. Nick Nurse is not being professional. Class can't be forced. He is the coach of Team Canada. Not a good look. There's all kinds of messed up things about this. Like we see this like messed up thing about him being a coach of Team Canada at this point is uncomfortable. It's awkward. It's like, yeah, you're going to sabotage the Raptors season, and you're probably going to sabotage this cycle, this Olympic cycle for our Team Canada also. Yeah, I don't trust the man. And like, honestly, if we could fire him right now before we do this FIBA World Cup at the end of the summer, I would do it. But I don't know what Rowan Barrett's going to do as far as that. And it may be that just because, the players, as I said, are committed to this full cycle, that Nick has to be committed to the full cycle, even if he's really not the right person for that job anymore. Really, really not. I agree, Cool Cat. Nav Bhatia is a classy, very generous, nice, turn the cheek other person, and good for him. Not everyone in this world can be your way, and maybe that's part of what's wrong with this world. But still, and this situation is way too fresh. And I appreciate Nav trying to smooth things over and do something nice, maybe make a fake letter for us from Nick instead or something like that. Maybe he's trying to do good faith. Now, Nick, I'm going to do this picture and I'm going to write a letter for you. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Now, fuck them or something like that. I don't know. It's like, what is this, Nick? Like, seriously, you could have just like had some gopher in your Nick Nurse organization just do this and you wouldn't even had to do it. And we wouldn't even known. Oh my gosh. You can't even give the least amount of effort in this situation. It's so silly. Fiercely saying if Nav's letter on his Instagram, I feel like responding to it. Don't worry, fam. I'll be nice and politically correct. Laugh out loud. Go Fiercey. Yeah, it's on his Instagram and his Facebook. You can find it in both places. And I wrote at both places myself. So you can go there. What did I say on the Instagram one? I think I said what did I say? Let me go look at it. I want to read what I said. I said something totally different on the Instagram than what I said on the Facebook post. Oh man, Nick Nurse. Oh my gosh, Nick Nurse. All right, this is what I said. I said he is hurting his legacy because of Clutch's influence. That's what I said. I wrote that on his Instagram post. He is hurting his legacy because of Clutch's influence, is what I said. All right, let's see. G saying, my feeling is Nurse will put out a statement soon. My thinking is he was waiting for things to settle down. We will see. Yeah, I hope so too. I hope you're right. Like, honestly, it'll go a long way with me. Seriously, it will go a long way with me. Manners matter in some ways. And Nick doesn't have to act like manners matter in his life Well, they matter to me. So, if you don't want to do that, then don't do that. Oh man. All right, let's see. Fiercely saying, great response, Lex. Yes, yes. And Tom Duke saying, you tell him, Lex, let's go. Yes, Tom Duke. Good to see you. The West Coast Raptor freak out there with his Raptors. I see him there. Mike saying, in my opinion, I'm happy for one of our players to have a voice for us in the media. I'm tired of the media not knowing of Raps names or the team. Fred is still working the same basketball wise. He's making media money. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he didn't get paid a whole lot to make that show appearance on that show in some ways. It's a weird show. Like Shams has been doing like a weird content, and now that he's kind of gone into his own little company, and there's a lot of weird stuff that he's producing and doing. And in some ways, he's not exactly the same dude as he was when he worked for the other company. He's a little bit more of a media conglomerate himself, and he's doing a lot of different moves now. I'm happy that Fred's doing stuff like this too. I think he is a very good representative for the Raptors, as he's well spoken and very intelligent. So the more we have him out there speaking, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if he's abiding by good things and staying loyal and true to our organization, which seems like what he has been doing. So Infamous is saying, salute, freaks. We don't know what this man may be going through. I wish Nurse the best. We can't be the bitter ex-girlfriend / boyfriend. We know what Coach Budenholzer went through. We know the pain and suffering that Monty Williams has gone through for the last 5 years. So yeah, this is a cop out. If Coach Bud's brother can die in an accident in the middle of the Miami series for them, and he still manages to put a statement out, Nick can do the same thing. We haven't heard anybody died in his family. We haven't heard any like this or that. He has the time. It's very much the same statement as like, if somebody wants to talk to you or spend time with you, they'll make the time for it. It's that kind of thing. And, you can describe us as being bitter ex-girlfriends or boyfriends. It is this. We had a 10-year relationship with this guy, and it's just classy for him to do it. And in some ways, once again, it reflects on him the most. It shows that he has no class is basically what it is. It's like he could do it and it would make him look better, but he's not going to, it seems like. If he does, finally, okay, then I'll give him some points. But in some ways, it's kind of too little too late at this point. Like, seriously, it's been 5 weeks. It's been 5 fucking weeks. And Doc Rivers did his statement 2 hours after he got fired. So you tell me, it's been 5 fucking weeks. Doc Rivers did it in 2 hours after he got fired. He said the day before, I fully expect to be here in Philadelphia next year. And then they fired him the next morning. And then 2 hours later, thank you, Philadelphia, for everything. That's a professional. That's a professional. That's somebody who is a grown-up, mature professional. And Nick Nurse is a little boy. Little baby boy, hurt his feelings. Glad he landed on his feet. The poor little baby boy. Little Dexter's Laboratory looking motherfucker. Yeah. I'm starting to call him Dexter's Laboratory. Oh, man. All right, here we go. Let's keep going. Let's see. Random Gamer, Sixers fan saying, I don't know, G. We have Tobias and PJ. Which one do you want? Laugh my ass off. I just want OG, man. Well, we may, like, seriously, I'm trying to work this out. I want Maxey and Reed, bro. I don't want your old heads. I don't want PJ Tucker on the end of his career who doesn't not want to be in Toronto, obviously. So, yeah, we don't want PJ, definitely. And Tobias Harris, for his price, no way, bro. That's not equal to OG. So we're not interested. We want your young guns. We want Tyrese Maxey, Paul Reed, and a first-round pick if you want Fred and OG. That is what I'm doing. I'm a hard bargaining in the place of Masai and Bobby. This is what I would do if I was in there. Say, you want this deal? Well, you have to give us Tyrese Maxey if you want OG and Anunoby. So you have to trade Tyrese Maxey to Toronto if you want Fred and OG. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If that is a non-starter for you, then we can walk away from this table right now, Random Gamer. So you have to put Maxey in the deal. If you want OG, yeah, maybe I can try and figure out something for Fred without OG involved, without Maxey involved. But otherwise, if you want OG, Maxey's coming back here. Yeah, that's it. That's how you do it. You saw how I got an edge with him? I'm cool with you, Random Gamer. I'm just showing my negotiating edge. Yeah, you better bring Maxey or we're not even talking. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. G saying, laugh my ass off. No, thank you, Random. Let's see. G is like with me in the GM office. And he's like, no, thank you. It's like we're Bobby and Masai. And G and I are saying, no, thank you. All right. Isaac Campbell has got the link for the interviews with Fred. So if you want to see the Sham show with Fred yesterday, that link in the chat is the one for it. Trevor J saying, why is he speaking for Nick? Is he the Knicks manager or mouthpiece? This is something that Nav has done over the years as the Raptors super fan ambassador. He's tried to smooth things over with different people. He did this with Goran also. Remember when Goran left? He wrote something nice about Goran. And he also said things like, oh, be nice to him. He's a nice guy and all this stuff. He's just that guy. Some of these guys are assholes and they should be treated the way they are, Nav. But you're just a nice guy and you get in the way and you kind of shield them and say, no, they're my friends. Don't talk trash about Goran Dragic. What? Of course we want to talk trash about Goran Dragic. You try and stand up for him. So he's done this before. He's done it. He's been obviously very much a force in Raptors Nation to speak good words of Vince Carter's good name in some ways also. So he's just this dude. He's just like that. He should be Knicks manager. Maybe they do a better job with him. Jeez. G saying Sergio or Jordy. Let's go. All right. You know what? That's going to be the poll for today. Guys, I made a poll yesterday after Isaac Campbell asked me to, and we have had people answering it. I put out the poll yesterday. Who is going to win the finals? And you guys went on there and you voted. Let's look and see what the vote is at right now. We've got 79% of you saying that Denver will beat Miami. That is out of about 30 votes. Thank you for voting in it. So right now we're very much saying that we think the Denver Nuggets are going to beat the Miami Heat. And I think that's in general what the sentiment is around the NBA, and experts are thinking that this may be likely. They're a more complete team. They have a really crazy good offense. In some ways, we know Miami has a lot of flaws. And in some ways, they're kind of coasting on fumes coming from the 7-game series with the Boston Celtics. Fred talked about this in the show yesterday, saying that, having a layoff is good. You're getting massage. You're hanging out. You're laying off back for a week like the Nuggets have been. And that, he said that the Heat will be kind of banged up and pretty tired from such an arduous series with the Boston Celtics. So in some ways, that is an advantage for the Denver Nuggets. And then you add in the altitude. They're talking about the altitude on ESPN today, the hidden advantage for the Denver Nuggets, the altitude of their city. And that is a factor. And they've never been in the finals like this before. So this will be very interesting to see. The altitude will definitely be a factor, and it could really screw up Miami's chances, especially since they're short. They don't have a lot of people. They're hurt. Although I'm hearing Tyler Hero is going to try and be back for game 3. So we may see Tyler Hero back involved in this series coming back. He wanted to come back for game 7 on Monday, but they wouldn't allow it. But he's aiming to be back for the finals at some point. So we'll have to see. Let's go. All right. I'll put that poll up, Jordy or Sergio, and then I'll put a third mystery man option. We'll see if anybody wants the mystery man instead, or whoever it is, Tom Duke saying, thanks, Isaac. I had not found it yet either. Thanks, Isaac Campbell, for posting the link. Fiercey saying, thanks, Lex and Isaac, for the link. You're welcome, Fiercey. And thank you, Tom. Thank you, Fiercey. Thank you, Isaac. Yes, thank you. Kukat saying, Masai said he is not rebuilding, he's retooling. So one of our core will be moving on, wants to bring back Raptors culture. Fred going against our culture by speaking so much to the media. Maybe. I guess we can interpret that. I don't think they've ever had a problem with Freddie speaking so much to the media. I don't know. Fred, I'm telling you, that tell is Fred said they decided to go in a different direction because he was against them firing Nick Nurse, is basically what Fred said there, that they decided they wanted to go in a different direction. He didn't necessarily himself. And maybe that's selfish for him because he knew he's Nick's teacher's pet. And we can see in the open gym highlights at the end of the season, Fred's the only one that's kind of still hanging around and listening to Nick. Meanwhile, the whole rest of the roster has tuned him out and not listening to him. You could tell, when he broke the franchise record for assists in that Charlotte Hornets game, and they brought the ball back to the back, nobody gave a shit. There's this is for Fred, not me, bro. And we don't care. We don't care about you or Fred, apparently. None of them. They just sat on their asses oh, great. There's nothing like Madison Square Garden 50 Pascal Siakam. None of that. And Nick got his 200th Raptor victory at that same game. And he put the importance on Pascal, which was nice at that time. I was like, Nick's a nice guy to do that. At that moment, I was like, wow, he's kind of benevolent in that way. But man, what happened since then? Maybe he got upset. He's like, I gave the game ball to Siakam for 50 in the Garden, And it really should have been my ball for getting 200 coaching wins. Ooh, and maybe that was the grudge. I don't know. Maybe we should have just gave that ball to Nick. Mm. All right. Monique saying almost every Raptors posting on IG. Ron is so focused. All right. Monique has brought up the Instagram. Let's do our daily Raptors Instagram check and see what's going on with the Raptors. We got Chris Boucher. He's in a hot tub after a workout, and he says post workout recovery is a must. Check. Yes. Do that. You guys work out so hard, get those muscles loosened up and not stressed out, so that you can be optimal at all times. And post workout recovery is a must. Thank you, Chris, for letting us know that. And then he's got some jokey stuff as usual. One of the things that Chris has said here, this is what he's saying: stress makes you believe that everything has to happen now. Faith reassures you that everything will happen in God's timing. Now, I like Chris saying this because in some ways we can apply this to the coaches' search for the Raptors, that it could be very stressful for the players not knowing who their new coach is going to be. That ambiguity of not knowing who this person's going to be and whether they're going to get minutes or what the style of the coach is kind of maybe a little stressful and unsettling. It's just like we are. We want to know who it's going to be. Well, definitely the players want to know. And I think that this is a nod to that Chris is saying stress makes you believe that everything has to happen now. But his faith reassures him that everything will happen in God's timing. And I'm sure a faith in the front office of the Raptors doesn't hurt him and not worrying about who the next coach will be. Ron Harper is in the gym, as Monique said. It says best is yet to come. It's already been written. Ron Harper Jr. wearing the Juice World shirt and the old school Raptors shirt with Kyle and DeMar on the picture. I love how Ron Harper Jr. embraces the retro Raptors shirts with old Raptors on it, and he wears them in practice. This dude is really taken to our culture well. And I really, really want Ron to blossom and develop into a much higher level player and be a part of our regular rotation and be somebody in our organization. He can follow the path of Fred VanVleet. He has a pedigree from his family, and he's also got the drive and the work and the smarts and the intelligence to do it. So you go, Ron Harper. We want to see more and more better things from you down the road in your career with the Raptors. And we love that you've embraced being a Raptor. We are the ones who gave you that chance, undrafted, just like Fred VanVleet. And you see the loyalty that Fred has given us and how it's been given back to him in rewards of being such a great player with us. You do the same, Ron, and you will be great for us down the road also. Kyle Lowry posting him putting on his NBA Finals hat 2023. And then there's a really cool picture of Kyle on the plane with the Eastern Conference Championship trophy, smiling. There was apparently something that the Heat did on the plane where Max Strus took the trophy to each one of them and took a picture of each one of them holding the trophy to memorialize this moment for them. And the picture of Kyle holding the trophy is fun. He has a big smile. He has a cool blue watch, and he's just, you could see Kyle's just happy. And we're so happy for Kyle himself. DeMar getting more tattoos. That's right. I'm looking at the old school guys, our favorites, the Groats, Kyle and DeMar. DeMar listen, when he left Toronto, he had very few tattoos. And when he went to San Antonio, he started adding them. And he got that Joker tattoo on his shoulder. It was so nasty and weird looking. But this dude has got so many tattoos at this point. They're working down the side of his abdomen. Like he literally, I'm looking at this picture and there's not a part of his skin other than his face that doesn't have ink on it at this point. So DeMar has definitely fallen into the tattoo addiction. And I heard that happens. You get one and you like it and you're like, I got to get more and more and more. And well, DeMar is there on the table getting more tattoos put on him right now. Gary Trent Sr. is in the OVO Center. So that probably means that Gary Trent Jr. is there also. It's cool to see Gary Trent Sr. in the OVO Center working out like he does in random gyms around America all the time because he's funny. He's a funny dude. Like when he's in. Let me see what he's saying. He's actually saying something in the clip too. Okay, wait. Basically, what he said is, oh, wait. He said basically, all right, early morning workout, and it's 7:30 when he's at OVO, and then he shows the camera on the OVO court, and he says, "We in this joint." Ooh, does that mean Gary Trent Jr.'s in the joint too with your dad? Ooh, I love to see it. I love to see Gary more and more involved with the Raptors this summer, meaning maybe he's going to be back. In fact, it's a weird thing. Gary's more on blast with the Raptors this summer than he was last year. And we knew for sure he was going to be a Raptor last year. Well, this year he's way more on blast with the Raptors. So I'm wondering, does that mean he's just going to be a Raptor and we know it? Oh my gosh. All right. So there's your Instagram check with everything on Instagram with the Raptors yesterday. Good stuff. All right, let's keep going with the comments. As above, so below says, this reminds me of why Jimmy Butler left Philly. There's no direction. In some ways, this is true. Like, what I want to say about James Harden right now is that you guys are fucked with him. You seriously are. Like, James Harden is huge key to the recent success of the Sixers in the last 2 years. Well, you're not going to have him anymore. So y'all are going to downgrade. If you get a replacement player that fits better, so be it. Maybe you'll be all right. But you're going to lose a huge star on your team that has been basically your point guard the last 2 years. And he has been huge for you guys getting a good offense going. And you guys don't understand losing him is going to backtrack your progress that you've had in the last couple of years, Philadelphia. Well, the writing's on the wall. James already said he wants to go live with mom in Houston, and he wants to be around his businesses down there. He likes the strip clubs in Houston a lot. And Nick Nurse is the final nail in that because he does not get along with James. So James is not going to be in y'all's jersey next year. And that may be one of the biggest fuck ups that y'all have done. Y'all don't have any direction. Y'all really need to value what you got and you build, like Jimmy Butler, like JJ Redick, like James Harden. Because in some ways, you're kind of doing what we're talking about. You don't rebuild, you retool. And maybe James is part of the problem. You got to get rid of him and bring somebody in. But I don't think y'all realize just how much him being next to Embiid has inflated Embiid and made him better. And you're going to find that out when James leaves this summer, that Embiid has lost some of the things he had last year just because James isn't there. And that's going to be the part that downgrades the Philly. And then you add in the anti-flopping rules, and then Nick Nurse with his crazy schemes and them not totally taking to them correctly. They may not have a winning formula in Philadelphia this season. And that's kind of what I'm going to predict right now. But yeah, Jimmy Butler leaving, you're right. There's no direction in that team. And in some ways, Daryl Morey just likes to play off of his connections with people. And if the timing is right to get them to come in, like James or Nick, he has them come in. So, yeah, keep going, Philly. You're doing what Philly does. You guys have done this so long that you're so good at it. Just keep doing it. Your process is awesome. It's great entertainment for teams that don't like y'all. G's saying, Cool Cat, I hear you, but I feel Scotty will be like this too at some point. He's very popular and seems to enjoy it. I think the NBA culture in general is changing. Boucher is a podcast. G, I'm going to completely disagree with you. And from my time with Scotty last summer, I will tell you right now, you will never, ever see Scotty in broadcasting. Yep. You will never, ever see him. He barely likes doing these interviews. In fact, when they asked him to go do the NBA Finals last year around this time to cover it as the Rookie of the Year, he didn't want to go. In fact, he told Masai, I don't want to go and cover the finals as a correspondent. They had to tell him to go and almost force him to go because he was refusing to go. He does not like being on camera. He does not like being in interviews. He hates podcasts and he won't do them. That's why you'll never see him on Hustle Play with Chris because I think what happened was, and we talked about it with him last summer, because people would come in there all the time and say, I wanted you to do my podcast, Scotty, on Twitch. And he say, I don't do podcasts. I don't do podcasts. I don't do podcasts. I'm telling y'all, I don't do podcasts. He said it over and over again. I say, if you ain't going to do Chris Boucher's podcast, why the fuck do you think you do your podcast, jabroni? Yeah. So basically what I think happened is Scotty did podcasts when he was younger. Maybe he was at FSU. Maybe he was in high school. And somebody made him look like an idiot in the podcast because Scotty's a smart guy, but in some ways he's a very naive, unassuming young man who in some ways can be like kind of caught in a place where he's kind of like having a brain fart. And some people may take that as him being lower intelligence, but that's not what it is. He's a very measured young man with his words, and he wants to say things the right way. In fact, the perfectionist in him on the court is a perfectionist in the interviews. I personally was helping Scotty with his public speaking skills last summer and teaching him how not to say, in the interviews, because we would watch his interviews with him, and he'd be like, I hate how much I say and I started giving him like tips from my years at FSU and public speaking classes and communication class and being on the radio. I started to teach him some stuff, and he actually was practicing it. He's like, okay, Raptors freak, I'll try that. And he's like, I told him basically, when somebody asks you a question and you're not totally ready to answer, don't say anything. Take a time to collect your thoughts and think about it. They'll be anticipating you talking. And then when you come out with it, don't start with an Just say, I was very happy with the game. And if you have to take a moment to pause and think for a second, that's you just being deliberate with what you're trying to think of saying. He thinks there's too many pitfalls in that kind of stuff where he will look stupid. And that's why he will never, ever go into that arena. Trust me. He will not be in the media. He will not. Trust me. Scotty will not be going the route of Danny Green, Chris Boucher, or Fred VanVleet. He will not. So, yeah. Cool Cat saying, I'm now ready to move on from Nick Nurse and Fred VanVleet. We'll always thank them for the chip and their time. Will forever be in history of our organization. Those two are too much drama for me. In some ways, you're right. Nick is definitely too much drama at this point. And Fred, I don't know how to suss him out as far as like whether he is a part of the problem or not. He may very well be part of the problem, and he may be part of the lingering problem if we do keep him around. In some ways, I'm like, yeah, let's just go ahead and move Fred too. But man, it's so tough. I'm just going to let however it happens, and support whatever outcome it is. If he's on another team, so be it. If he's still here, I will continue to support and love and protect Freddie from the Freddie haters, because that's just what we do here. Mike saying, so we like when Scotty or Pascal does media things, but when Fred does it, it's about money. The logic isn't right. Seems like there's a bias. I didn't say that myself. Somebody else in the chat said that, and I don't think any of that had to do with money. I mean, I don't know how much Shams paid him to sit there for an hour. He probably, in some ways, maybe got very little. You guys may be surprised. I don't think it was for the money at all. In some ways, you know what it is? It's clutch. Clutch, as Emily Ruiz, or whatever, the agent that was seen with Fred over the weekend on Instagram, they are telling them that they're introducing him to new people. And it could very well be that Clutch brought him to Shams and put him on his show. And that's how the opportunity came from. The other thing we got to remember, as much as Clutch is a boogeyman and scary and all the stupid shit that they do with their representation and advising their client, they also do give them other endeavors that don't have to do with their career. And it could very well be that Clutch set him up with that appearance on Shams. And, I don't think he did that for the money. He did that because they asked him, and he's a good guest and he's good at it. So I'm not the one who painted that with the money thing. I think it's more that it's just like Fred is into that kind of stuff, and he's been very good. I mean, he's been on TNT. He's been on a lot of different channels just speaking like that, and he's a great interview. Like, he's real. That JJ Redick podcast with him was very real, and that's part of the reason why they may like him being around and doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't criticize him different than any of those guys. I think that them doing media is good because it's promoting the Raptors. Space Cadet saying, my massage therapist is a big Raptors fan, but he thinks we should let Fred walk. It's the most awkward 1 hour I spend trying to act like I agree with him because he does a really good job. You know what? This is such an off-the-wall, weird comment from Space Cadet. You're getting a dunk because I don't know why. That's just hilarious. To me, this is like a Larry David a scene in like Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, I want to imagine Space Cadet is kind of like, I don't know what Space Cadet looks like or who Space Cadet is or anything. I'm just going to say that Space Cadet is just this person who comes in and like, it's like a very awkward scene in Curb Your Enthusiasm, what they just described. So you're getting a dunk, Space Cadet. All right. The fourth dunk for Space Cadet. Awesome. I love hearing that. That's funny. I know maybe you could be like, well, Fred is kind of important to our team. I don't know. Just shut up. Just let them do their job and let them work out those kinks and, let them talk all they want. It's fine. As long as it's not making you tensed up, like stressed out because they're talking about Fred so much. Maybe you say, can we just not talk about the Raptors, please? I'm in mourning over Nick Nurse's stupidity. You could say something like that. I don't know. All right. The professional saying, I got to be honest, I don't agree. Well, imagine that, professional. We already know that you're a Sixers fan and that you're not going to agree with a lot of what we're having to say here. But let's hear what you got to say. Joel is looking for accountability, and Nick will make sure of it. Nick Nurse is a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion, top 3 coach in the entire league right now. All right, let me go about this and parse this out so I can be fair. Obviously, I know you're going to disagree with me. You're a Philly stan, and we are Toronto stans, and we're very much on opposite sides on this. Joel is looking for accountability. I bet he is to a degree. I mean, honestly, that may be part of it. Is like with James leaving, that is part of the accountability y'all want to get around. Is James disappearing in late in the playoffs? Sure, he did great in the early rounds and was fantastic, but later on he did disappear. And then that is a problem for y'all with accountability, sure. So maybe the addition by subtraction of leaving James out will help with your accountability. Sure, I could see that. And you know what? In some ways, you're right. Nick will hold them accountable, but you got to understand that Nick Nurse has a certain caliber and level that he's going to hold them accountable to. And if they don't get to it, he's going to be frustrated. He's going to be a hard ass and he's going to be an asshole. And he may very well not coddle some of the young egos on your team. And then some of them may not be happy with him. Let's just put it that way. And accountability is such a slippery slope in the NBA these days with these young, coddled, positive and reinforcement youngsters that you can't be a hard-nosed, hard-ass old coach without ruffling some feathers. And sometimes that's the problem with the new NBA is these youngsters are soft. PJ Tucker said y'all had problems on your team with youngsters being youngsters in this kind of vein. And that in some ways he wants to get paid more to babysit these kids. So that's what I'm saying. You know, you're right. Nick will get them more accountable, but will they be able to meet his demands? And he get frustrated if they can't. We had a crazy athletic team that did the best of their ability what Nick wanted them to, and that is why we got the results we did. If your team cannot run around like crazy like we did, y'all will not be able to do the defensive scheme that he wants to do. I cannot see a lard ass like Georges Niang doing the same things that Precious or Chris Boucher used to do for us. I cannot see parts of your team being able to fit into the defensive scheme that works for Nick Nurse and how he likes to do things. Just certain teams will not be able to be up to the challenge. And I'm going to predict that right now. You may have accountability. He may push y'all, but I don't know if y'all will rise to the occasion. Y'all were lazy for Doc, and you'll be lazy for him to a degree also. So yeah, all right, we can agree. I agree with you to a degree, actually. Nick Nurse is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and in my opinion, a top 3 coach. I don't know if he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He may eventually be a Hall of Famer, but there's a lot of coaches that win just one championship that don't get into the Hall of Fame. In some ways, sure, okay, I would like him to be a Hall of Famer because it makes it look good for us. You know, y'all may not win a championship with him, and then when he retires, he will still be a Raptors Nation person. And, you know, it will be all the legacy and the luster of him going to the Hall of Fame will still be with our franchise. You know, unless y'all win a championship or you get more than one championship, then maybe he'll become more yours. But I don't think he will. I think he's going to fail. He's going to flame out in 2 years. And it won't be remembered that he coached in Philadelphia as much as he coached in Toronto. So that's how I'm going to look at this legacy as far as later on, if he's going to be going in the Hall of Fame, he'll be going in as a Raptor unless he does some crazy ass shit with the Sixers, which I do not think is possible. Seriously. Let's see. And you think he's in your opinion, a top 3 coach in the entire league right now? You know, I would have agreed with you earlier this year. I would have agreed with you maybe 3 months ago, but I don't anymore. The fact that he is like, so in his head and the way that he's doing things is really ruining, like in some ways, why he's a good coach to me. And in some ways, you can go ahead and think that. I think he's a good coach. I think you're right. I think he's one of the top brilliant minds in basketball and X's and O's. But once again, he's a horrible leader. He's a horrible bedside manner. He's not good with people. He's an absolute prick. And he's going to piss people off. There's a reason why Drew Holiday said he's not the nicest person in the world. And y'all will find out. Maybe he'll fit right in with Philadelphia culture. Let's see if there's brotherly love with Nick Nurse, better than Doc Rivers. Y'all's fan nation will be a lot of fun to see how they ride the ups and downs with Nick Nurse and whether they turn on him or they love him or not. I'll bet you guys are going to turn on him at some point. And then once again, the Raptors fans will get the popcorn out and read all your Twitter and see just how things are going there. There's a little bit of side entertainment for us this year to see the Philadelphia social media fans interacting on Nick Nurse issues. We're going to see something like we had here with our fan nation with y'all. Trust me, there's going to be some people that really don't like him. and y'all's fan nation very quickly. Watch. Yeah. But good to see a professional. I won't give you a strike for that. That is actually a way to work with us. It's just, if you want to talk to us and interact with this channel, let's just, I can be a little insulting, but this is a Raptor space. But in some ways, if you come in here and you start putting us down as far as certain things, if you can talk civilly, we will have you here every day. We have no problem with it. Like Random Gamer, he knows. Random Gamer is a Philly fan that's been with us for over a year now. And we met during the Philadelphia series last year with Toronto and Philadelphia, and we became friends. So this is a thing. Sports can unite just as much as it divides. In some ways, we are all basketball fans and we share that passion. And that can be a commonality that brings us together, even if we're arch rivals and bitter in some ways in a grudge match. We still have commonalities and we find a good place to share things that we love together and bring us back to being humans and being together. And that's something that the world needs more of. That I like the bridges between Philadelphia Nation and Toronto Nation because it shows that it's much more than just sports in some ways. Random saying, serious question though, do Raptors fans want Fred back? Like, are they willing to pay him? Because if Harden walks, which hopefully he does, I wouldn't mind bringing Fred to Philly. We're on the fence right now. Honestly, me personally, Random Gamer, I'm 50-50 on Fred. I love Fred and I respect him, and I do really want him to stay in Toronto in a lot of ways. But in some ways, I understand that he may be part of the problem from last season, and that in some ways, we kind of do want a fresh slate. And we also are not real thrilled with clutch people right now. So if clutch people leave our team this summer, this may be the time. That's why I was open to your idea about trading OG and Fred to y'all, because they're the two most prominent clutch people on our team at this point. But it has to be Maxey, Reed, and a first-round pick. If you want OG and Fred as a package, that's the only thing I'll take from y'all is Maxey, Reed, and a first-round pick. I don't want anything less. That's it. That's right. But yeah, it could happen. I mean, Fred intimated that he's open to coming and staying with Nick in Philadelphia. And I said, why? It's because Nick, he's his teacher's pet. So he will give him whatever. So they're good. They're a good pairing in a lot of ways. And you know what? In some ways, we would be like, as long as we have a capable point guard coming back to us and we have somebody to replace him, yeah, we might be okay with saying goodbye to Fred this summer. We may be okay with it. I'm not totally I'm hesitant and I'm like cautious about it, but in some ways I'm like open to it more than ever right now. Yeah. Space Cadet saying real Raptor fans do, but we also understand he has to do what's best for his family. That's right. In some ways, it's Fred's decision to make, and he has the right to make this decision. And I'm not going to judge him like I judge Nick. This whole thing with Nick is totally ugly and different than so many different things. Fred decides he wants to take more money and go somewhere else, so be it. It's his right. And as Space Cadet said, he has to think about what's best for his family. And I wouldn't hate him for that. He's given us so many good years. And in some ways, he would take some of the aggravation I deal with in Raptors Nation with anti-Fred people, and it would go out the window, and I wouldn't have to deal with that as much. Now, who would they turn their sights on our team after that? That may be the fucking problem after that. But still, we're more open to losing Fred than ever right now. Monique is saying, again, good to see so many fans super high on Jordy and Sergio. Yeah, I'm really kind of enthusiastic about Jordy. Sergio, I kind of understand what we get. Somebody was trying to say that if we get Sergio, he's going to run that Spanish pick and roll over and over again. In some ways, that's very exciting to me. And all the pick and rolls that Spain's national team does is really kind of intricate and elegant. And if we can get like really cool pick and rolls going with Pirtle and Siakam and different people like that, from like how Sergio does it with the Spanish national team, that could be a very fruitful offense. The Utah Jazz in their heyday with Stockton and Malone over abused using the pick and roll, and they were still effective at making that score over and over again, every which way kind of way. And I'm like, this seems like just a logical kind of offense for the Raptors with their makeup. And I was kind of pissed at Nick that he didn't use it more. He did use it from time to time once Pirtle showed up, and that was nice, but they need to get more into the pick and roll, way, way more in the pick and roll this season coming up. And if Sergio's our coach, it seems like that will happen. So we'll have to see. Infamous is saying that statement was Fred just speaking to his competitive nature. Money doesn't always equate happiness. Like Biggie said, more money, more problems. I hope Fred feels this way. And he has kind of hinted at that there's things in life. He's posted something earlier this summer already. And he said, there's things in life that money can't buy. Don't lose those things in the chase of money, is basically what he said. And in some ways, that pointed me to thinking he's going to stay, because in some ways he could sell out and go get more money, maybe somewhere else. But he may be saying it's some things are more important than money. And that may be loyalty, that may be legacy, that may be like established relationships and things that you already have going. That's kind of how I read that. And he may be right. I'm on the fence on this. Some people have said he's a money grubber and he's only hungry for money, but I don't think that's true. That's not who Fred is. I don't think that's ever been true about him. He's just a very competitive person. He wants to do the best for his family, as you said, and in whatever situation he's gauging it for what's best. And in some ways, that may conflict with his loyalty to the Raptors at some point this summer. But I think his intentions and the way he talks, like he did last summer when he said, I want to be a Raptor for life. I think he meant that when he said that. I seriously do. And when I met him in person, I know for a fact that he really does love the city of Toronto and our fans. And he does really love being a Raptor. So this is a very tough decision for him this summer, what's going to happen with him. He doesn't take it lightly. And if he turns his back on us and goes somewhere else, I'll bet you he'll have way more class than Nick. And we will get a statement from him for sure. Watch, we will. Let's keep going. Cool Cat saying, I understand the business of Fred. I have no issue with it. It's just costly with the CBA agreement. The media strategy is wonky. Scotty's contract is coming up. Teams can only have 2 big contracts. Move on. So yeah, she's really anti-Fred at this point. We've had different people come and go with how they feel about Fred this whole entire season. There's been people that have stood up for him and then turned on him and then kind of come back in different places at different parts of the season. And I get it. In some ways, I'm like Cool Cat. We don't need this distraction any longer. You know, if we're going to put big money on people, we want one of those to be Scotty for sure. And then the other person, is it Pascal? Is it OG? I don't know. We'll have to see. Or maybe it's somebody totally new that we bring in that will be the other Supermax with Scotty. We'll have to see who the pairing is, but it's definitely Scotty's one of them. Lion Hunter saying, to be fair, Lex, I don't think any player would say we with respect to management decisions. That's beyond his pay grade. Is it? But is it, Lion Hunter? My good friend, Lion Hunter. Good to see you this morning. You know, he said a couple of weeks ago that him and MU, he called them MU, are on the phone all the time. And we know that he's a little bit more than just our point guard and team captain. He's involved in decisions with the front office. So in some ways, I can make the argument that, yeah, he is actually a we with them because he gets consulted. He gets consulted on draft picks. He gets consulted on moves. And it could very well be that Bobby Masai sat Fred down and talked to him about possibly moving on from Nick. And maybe his opinion dissented from theirs. That's what I'm trying to say. It's really like a tricky, like pronoun thing. It's like he said he said they instead of we. And in some ways, you know, I get what you're saying. And the nuance of it is there. And ultimately it's their final call, obviously. But in some ways he's special. And he is maybe a little bit not that far out of that pay grade. Let's just put it. He's out beyond his pay grade, as Pascal says, is actually lower because they get paid more. Siakam trying to say that's not in my pay grade. I don't get paid for that. Well, you get paid more, Siakam. Mike saying Fred VanVleet's their comment was about being at the first Philly versus Raptors game when Nick returns. Fred reasserts that it was the context of him staying with the Raptors. I knew that was going to be a thing. Laugh out loud. Mike, I don't totally understand what you're saying. Their comment? No, his thing was all right, the their comment. What is the their comment? I don't know what you're talking about, Mike. I'm sorry. I'm not following you right now. All right, I'm going to move on. Infamous is saying, I think different meant Nick is weird in a Bill Belichick way. Remember, he mentioned he mentored under him for a summer to pick his brain. Yeah. Well, this is true. He's definitely in that vein of like kind of psychotic, crazy, like coaches like Belichick, like really win at all costs and kind of like corrupt your morals even to win at all costs and stuff like that. I mean, that's totally true. And like Fred said, he's crazy. He described him as being crazy. He described Adrian as being nice, and he described Nick as being crazy. And he said, "Oh, if they can get them bought into his crazy ideas in Philadelphia, I'm sure he'll be successful." It's kind of what he said. Yeah, well, that's a big if. You can get them bought into his crazy ideas. We'll have to see. And see if they're even able or capable to do his crazy ideas. As I said earlier, I don't think they'll be able to run the Raptors defense in Philadelphia. They pretty much probably will not be able to. Let's see. He mentored under Belichick. Well, that says a lot right there. Monique saying, "Why do the Suns want Doc?" Laugh out loud. Laugh out loud. Well, Doc is a coach that's been around for a long time. He's a players coach. He is a good coach as far as he's like better than the average person. He has experience. He knows a lot of people around the league. He's had somewhat success. Sure, he chokes late in the playoffs and gives up huge leads and messes things up that way. But in a lot of ways, he's actually a good coach in different ways. And if he was actually the hire for us, I wouldn't be too enthusiastic about it, but I could be okay with it because it would be in some ways a temporary thing, and he could be good in some ways. Now, I don't want Doc Rivers to coach the Raptors, but if it happened, I could try and make it work if that's what Masai decided. But yeah, MSJ saying, "I listened. Fred VanVleet isn't going to say much, but praise on a show like that. But said some stuff. Is he off to Philly? Even for Raps lore, he can't say much. I will believe what I myself saw this season." Yeah, I saw a team that wasn't up to the challenge, that didn't have preparation right. They didn't do things totally in the right way. They had lapses mentally. They had really bad periods of the season where they lost a lot. They seemed lost. They seemed disconnected. They didn't seem like they were following their coach. They didn't seem like there were all kinds of problems with the Raptors this year. It's amazing that we were 500 at the end of the season. Honestly, seriously, with just how much dysfunction and weirdness was underneath, behind the scenes, the fact that we ended the season at 500 is actually an accomplishment. In some ways, they were picking us at the beginning of the season to win 38 games or something like that, 35 games. That's what the NBA experts said the Raptors would win last season. I laughed at it. I was like, we're more likely to be a 50-win team, is what I was saying, than be a 35-win team. Well, we were a 41-win team. So we were better than what they thought we would be, even though we had a bad year. But we're still a 500 team, and I'll take that to a degree with all the confusion and toxic going on. Let's see. Logic saying infamous. Yes, part of it, but his style of thinking and the person he is, though, too, in my opinion, pretty much what I said yesterday and have been. All right, Mike. I have trouble with your comments because I don't understand totally what you're saying. Fiercely saying Yahoo Canada YouTube channel. Okay, it's on the Yahoo Canada YouTube channel. All right, let's see what it is with Nick Nurse playing the piano on his way. Is Amit Man stuff? I don't see this. This is weird. All right, hang on. Yeah, I don't know where it is. I'm not gonna be able to find it. It's okay. It's okay. All right, let's keep going. Monique saying Marquise Noel in Toronto for pre-draft workouts. Okay, cool. I haven't seen any clips of him, but yeah, I've seen there's a couple players coming into Toronto for workouts right now. Nameless is saying Raptors are going to go get Coach Bud. They were pursuing him for years, even before Nick. He was one of our finalists when we hired Nick. Coach Bud was considered at that time, but he went to Milwaukee. Yeah, I don't know. Coach Bud is not being talked about. There's no buzz around Bud, and I'm worried that he's just taking the year off. Nobody's talking about him. They're not talking about him for Phoenix or anywhere. I don't even know if he's taking interviews. He may very well have told people, "I'm not interested in coaching next year," because we have not heard his name at all. He should have been just as sought after as Nick Nurse. Honestly, he has the same kind of resume. But he's not. We're not hearing his name. And I really think it's because he wants time off. And he's told everybody, don't even try and interview me. I'm taking the year off. MSJ saying, I commented on a Sixers fan group, told them my take on Nick Nurse and Fred VanVleet. They want both and are delusional about both. I told them Nick is tricky and Fred might be best days behind him. I hope they get both, to be honest. That's funny. They slam Nick and Fred when they're opposition, and they're like, "Oh, Fred's this, Fred's that," but now they're coveting him. It's so funny how it switches like that when the possibility of these guys coming and joining their team changes, how they sing their tune totally different about how they look at them. You go, MSJ. Keep going in enemy lines and keep truth bombing them with the truth about NN and FVV. Yeah, you do that. Nameless saying Bud even got a great relationship with Masai. Does he? I haven't heard anything about him in Masai and being cool and everything like that. What's that connection? Like, I didn't know that. I know that Doc Rivers has a good connection with Masai, but I didn't know Coach Bud does. Where did they get that connection from? When did they work together? I don't know if that's true, Nameless. I'm a fun guy saying I would love Coach Bud too. Any winning coach is good for me. Don't want experimental coaches anymore. I want one of Bud, Monty, or Doc. I mean, they're not sounding like, unless they're one of them is the mystery third finalist, it doesn't sound like it's going to be them. The top candidates right now are Jordy Fernandez, Sergio Scarioli, and the one mystery third finalist. There's 3 finalists, and we know 2 of them. We don't know who the third finalist is. It could be Steve Nash. It could be Doc Rivers. It could be Coach Bud. It could be Monty Williams. Yeah, it could be any of those guys. So it could be one of them still, but we don't know who the third finalist is. Mike's saying role definition is a coach staff thing. So if that was the main issue, I don't know what kind of changes to look at other than get shooting possibly. You mean with our team, Mike? Ah, man, Mike, you're really in an obtuse kind of place right now with me as far as your thinking and where you're at with what you're writing. I'm having a hard time connecting to your what your comments are right now. Role definition is a coach staff thing. So if that was the main issue, I don't know what kind of changes to look at other than get shooting possibly. Yeah, get a new coach. Hopefully they can role define the players better than Nick did. And yes, shooting is number 1 on our priority list for this summer to improve for sure. Nameless is saying it's going to be a good old-fashioned coach swap between Milwaukee and TO. Well, listen, I'll be very happy with Coach Bud. He is one of my top candidates, and I think he would be a very sound decision. But like I said, I'm not hearing his name murmured in any circles or anywhere. So I think he's off the table, honestly, guys. Nameless saying the fact we hear nothing about Bud tells me he's the guy. Okay, so this is the opposite. Nameless is like the fact we're not hearing anything about him is telling him he's the guy. There'll be like a swing of surprise all of a sudden. Oh, everybody forgot Budenholzer's out there and the Raptors have hired him. Well, I would not be upset if you're right, Nameless. I would not be upset by this. Some people will be like, maybe Bucks fans will be acting like how we are acting towards Philadelphia with Nick Nurse. Be like, yeah, you go ahead and take Coach Budenholzer. Ha, 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 and see what you get from that. But they won't be mad at Budenholzer like we're mad at Nick because Budenholzer wrote a letter and said goodbye to Milwaukee in a classy way. Exact same situation, Coach Budenholzer and Coach Nick. And Coach Budenholzer has class, and he's somebody to respect and look up to as a role model, not Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse is a dirty snake, and he has no class. He's an immature punk. Yeah, there you go. All right. Monique is saying, shared Nick Smith Jr. on my Instagram story for those that follow me. Check it out. Okay, if y'all want to see any highlights of Nick Smith Jr., a possible pick at the 13th pick for the Raptors this draft, check out Monique's Instagram. Check out Monique, the superfan Lawrence, on Instagram. Follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and get all the latest news on stuff Raptors related all the time, 24/7. Monique is on it. Nameless is saying Raptors are doing a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors, and out of left field are going to land Bud. That is how Masai operates, gangsta. I hope you're right. I mean, I'm okay with this. Sounds cool. Smoke and mirrors. If Coach Bud is our coach by the end of the week, I'm not going to be upset. I won't be upset about that. Hey, Shere Khan's here. Good to see Shere Khan. It's been a little bit. I know it's summertime, and it's a little bit, not as much going on, but good to see Raptor Freak Rookie of the Year. Shere Khan is in the house. We have to add good bench players with more yak-like trades. Boston was on the right track, but looks like Brown is not the best running mate for Tatum. We need to add a 1B with Siakam till Scotty is ready as 1A. We got Jaylen Brown in Toronto somehow, some way. That would be really a game changer. That's a needle pusher. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, getting a needle pusher this summer. And I'm with Shere Khan on this. We got better bench, better shooters, a little bit of a needle pusher in an acquisition with a trade or free agency this summer. This could really refresh Raptors fans' enthusiasms for the team and coming into the season and may help season ticket sales. Because that's the other thing they got to worry about. That team has got to look attractive to fans to re-up their season seats so that they are like spending money on the game and coming to the games. If we look like we're going into a down year or we're going to be crap, it could really hurt the Raptors' revenue and how many people come to the games. You know, when the Blue Jays kind of already look mid coming in through the season, they don't do as well in attendance. They have to be looking like a capable team that will compete and win, and then people will come. And we need the same thing for Toronto. In fact, that's maybe part of their job that's the most important, Bobby and Masai, is to put a team together with a coach that is attractive to the fans that will make them come to the games and sell tickets. So yeah, they have some work to do this summer to make the Raptors look competitive and get the fan base enthusiastic to come and spend the money and re-up on their season tickets. Yeah, there you go. Nameless is saying Don Masayo Ujiri. He is the capo. Yeah, he's the guy sitting in the office, and they come in and they say, "Yeah, I'm not pleased with what you did." All right, let's keep going with the comments. I love it. I love it. I love it. Nameless is saying he's from Calabria. Yeah, MSJ saying at Cool Cat, CBA, you are 100% right. Go with Scotty. We actually have no choice given what you say. Yeah, I think Scotty, seriously, we just need to do whatever Scotty wants. Scotty, you want a certain player on the team? Let's go get him, Messiah. You want a certain coach? In fact, maybe Scotty needs to be in Toronto right now because he needs to meet the new coach and really get to know them and see if he likes them and has a natural chemistry with them right away. I'm sure Scotty will. He's that kind of guy that he gets along with coaches real easy. And he likes the different influences and styles of different coaches being around him. I don't think he's ever had a problem with a coach. I think that when he's talked about it on his stream last year, he said, I've had many, many coaches, and I really enjoy having different coaches telling me what to do. So I don't think Scotty will have any problem with whoever they hire. In fact, he will be one of the people that makes the person want to come and take the job because they get to work with Scotty. So I hope Scotty does get to meet with the new coach before they hire him, just like Joel did with Nick, because in some ways you want to see these guys kind of how they interact, and if there's a natural friendship or chemistry that comes about right away meeting each other. That was a huge part in why the Bucks hired Adrian, that he went to Giannis's house and he hung out with Giannis at his house, and Giannis like, this guy's cool, let's hire him. Yeah. And Adrian's like, thanks, Giannis. David Saborin is here. Good to see Raptors Freak Trivia champion right now. David Saborin's going to get that championship very soon. Laugh out loud. Nick is officially a flopper. See, there you go. David, in some ways, I'm going to be very interested to hear David's venom towards Nick Nurse at this point. I think that it may be going into the same category with his venom towards Embiid. And this may be very entertaining to hear David's comments about Nick Nurse coming up this season. In fact, David may be giving us some good dunks from dunking on Nick Nurse in the near future. So you, David, start thinking of your craft and really come after our old coach. I want to hear you. I'll get a lot of delight in you eviscerating him with something like you do Joel all the time. So I'm all about it. MSJ saying Nav is a great dude, great fan, never won better, and he's trying to make it right. I doubt Nav played much basketball in his day, and he's not a player. Best to leave him alone to be the super fan. Yeah, I'm not mad at Nav. And some people could be mad at him for DR DeRozan. You know, I'm not mad at Nav. Nav is exactly who he is, and he's such a good force in our fan nation that you can't be mad at him. And I think it really is. He's trying to smooth things over. I think he sees this divide between Nick and Toronto right now, and he's trying to be a bridge, and he's done that before. But man, I wish he'd just tell him, Nick, why don't you just do this? Like now, when you were with him this morning, could you have just asked him, will you say something to the city of Toronto? Forget about the Raptors organization. Forget about the players. Forget about Masai. The city, the people of Canada. In some ways, it's just classy in some ways. But no, it just really shows how bitter you are. It's weird, man. Infamous is saying, we need to be careful as freaks. We need to avoid turning into he that shall not be named. Ooh, Infamous. This is a good warning. And I agree with you. Listen, this is the thing. That's why we stay with our house and we don't turn on who's in our house. That's why I caution Van Hoot from coming after Masai Ujiri right now. That's why I caution them from coming after Fred in the middle of the season. That's why I caution about coming after Nick in the middle of the season. Nick could have been this problem all along, but I protected him because in the season, it's not helpful. It's toxic. And it just adds to more of the stupid noise around the fan nation about the team. And what we want is a team fan nation that is supportive and positive towards the Raptors and not so like critical, judgmental, like, oh, I hate Fred because he missed that last second shot last night. No, we ride or die with them through success and failure. So I'm not worried about turning into he who shall not be named because we're not going to have a personal vendetta against one individual in the Raptors organization for no real reason other than just to be hateful in some sort of way. We won't be like that. Even if there is somebody in our there's something that's kind of pissing me off right now. And I'll say this. I had a problem with Justin Champagnie last summer and he left. He's gone. And I was glad he was gone. But because if he was a main player, I would not have come after him in some of the ways I did last year. Now, the legacy of Justin Champagnie continues with Christian Coloco. Unfortunately, he's sunning Ron Harper still. Like, I think he thinks that this is part of the NBA culture because Justin taught it to him. Yeah, fucking bullshit, Champagnie. Why did you do this whole son thing? Because now he's continuing to do it. Ron Harper Jr. posts something on Instagram. Coloco's in the comments saying, I'm so proud of my son, my son. Let's just drop the whole son thing. It's so dumb. Christian, just stop doing it. Can we just get rid of it? I thought it left with Justin. You don't need to carry on this legacy, is what I'm saying. But there's a reason why I was anti-Justin at that time, because I saw his prankster tricks as not very endearing, more like it could cause toxic problems on our team. So that's how we should be. We should not turn on our team. We should support them. If they're with us and they're in the car with us, you don't turn on them. We can be critical to a degree, but not in the way where we hate them and we're like, get out of here. We hate you, Fred, over and over again, like certain people were, like a broken record this past season. So I'm not worried about becoming he who shall not be named. And if any of us start to feel like it's happening to one of the others or something like that, please check them, call them out and say, dude, you're starting to sound like he who shall not be named. And maybe that's how we safeguard it from that infamous. Yeah, maybe it is. We just look out for each other on that. And be like, oh, whoa, Monique, you sound like Panser. Oh, that will never happen. Monique will never, ever happen to sound like Panser. Trust me. Let's see. Mike is saying, we still have 2 years of rookie contract, Scotty. He signed a 4-year rookie deal. He just finished his second year. Everyone is too far ahead with this, in my opinion. We have a 2-year window to spend and go for it. Okay. And Mike is more astute and learned on this subject than we are in general. So I trust what he's saying. But still, we have to definitely think about the future for Scotty because we want this future to be Scotty. And we want to carve that path out and have it all laid out easily for him. So it's just easy decisions and he's just happy and we're moving in the right directions. Team needs to win and it needs to progress and show that it is a winning team. Or Scotty may have a decision where he's making a tough decision. I think he would like to stay in Toronto and be that kind of guy. But if the team is floundering like Kevin Garnett in Minnesota kind of stuff in his early career, that may make things tough at some point. So we need to win. We need to be better so that Scotty's very comfortable and secure staying here because he knows he's on a track to possibly win championships here. And if we're not winning, we're kind of regressing and getting worse. That's bad. We don't need that around Scotty because he may leave if we're not showing a competency that we can be a winning team and do good stuff. So there is a lot of pressure in these next couple of years to show that so that he's not kind of changing his mind and saying like, you know what, I do want to maybe go to other places. Us winning will keep him here. Let's see. Fiercely saying, posted my comment. He smiles in the picture, but does look rough. Doesn't he look rough? It's like a pain smile. It's a pain smile. And his eyes are so teary. You can tell he's maybe emotional about leaving Toronto in that instant. He could very well have been in the airport. In that picture, he could very well have been in the airport. He's holding a bag, and who knows? Maybe Nav was seeing him off. It could be that he's like, Nick, are you on your way to the airport to go to Philly? I'll take you. And he went with them or something like that. But yeah, he does look rough. Name is saying 5-minute comment warning. Good stuff. I'm just under 2 hours, so we'll probably get it done just in time. We'll see. Let's see. Canada winning the NBA chip. Oh yeah, Jamal Murray. Let's go. Mike is saying, bottom line for me, a couple months doesn't change my mind on the work you've done. Everyone hits periods where they make bad decisions, but the heart, blood, sweat, and tears were still given for years. Yeah, we're staying present though, Mike. I'll look at the whole body of work when the body of work is done. Right now, we're staying present in where we're at. We all have different ways of looking at this. I won't fault you for this in that kind of way, but I am pissed at him, and I will sully his legacy as a Raptor freak right now until things are right and he's not on enemy lines the other side at some point. When he's gone from Philly and he's not on another team that's a rival, then maybe I'll circle back and we'll be back with him at that point. But who knows? He could do a lot of damage. Let's see. Fiercey saying that Ibaka just posted on Instagram and he's training again. Does it look like he's in Toronto? That will be an interesting thing to see. Where is Ibaka? Where in the world is Serge Ibaka? If he's in Toronto, that's a good thing. Let me see. I'll go look at Serge real quick. Let's see where Serge is. Sergi. I'll tell you where I think he is. That's tough to say. That's not OVO. It could be OVO though. It kind of looks like an OVO kind of place. No, the graphics on the wall aren't the same as OVO. Who knows? Okay, there he is in Miami. That 30 minutes, that's at University of Miami. That's definitely Miami. So he's down in Miami as of a half an hour ago. All right, Serge Ibaka watch. Tom Duke has got all the symbols saying, turn them off. We're done. And Name was saying, thanks for the stream today, Brother Lex. Yes, I do. It does sound Amish. Oh, because you call me Brother Lex. I'm going to go churn the butter after this now, Nameless. I'll go churn the butter. And that is not like a euphemism for something sexual. I'm going to go actually get the butter and churn it. Tom Duke saying, have a good one, folks. Woo, Lex, let's go. Yes, Tom Duke. You go, West Coast Raptor Freak Tom Duke. Hopefully I'll see you in a couple months out west. I'm going to see if I come out there. Nameless, I bet Lex ignores us and has a Lexathon. So much juice to discuss. Well, I can go a little bit longer. I'm going to try and finish it up by 2 hours. Let's see. Nameless laughing. Nameless saying only he has the power to open the chat back up. No, you guys are still commenting. I'll read them all, but I'm glad you guys slowed them down at least. It's like a speed bump. You say, okay, this is the line. And then, they kind of like maybe don't come as often like before. Let's see. Cool Cat saying, oh my God, my story, my physiotherapist hates Pascal. And I told him straight up, Pascal's my favorite. He didn't care. Kept on hating him during weekly physio sessions. Every week I prepared stats and converted him. Boo-yow! Boo-yow! Cool Cat doing exactly Project Truth in an individual place. And she actually converted Pascal Hater away from that kind of line of thinking with a reason and stats, just like Mike would do on his channel. You go, Cool Cat, specifically doing the work of what we do as Raptor Freaks, turning the heads around on their opinions on people like this. You go, Cool Cat. That's such an awesome story. And I love that. That's kind of circling back to Space Cadet story of like, this person hates Fred. I don't know if I want to talk to them or something like that. That's such a great story, Cool Cat. Kudos to you. I'm going to give you a dunk in honor of just doing something awesome like that. That is a great comment. I love that. Cool Cat getting a dunk for that. That is so cool. MSJ saying Joel just won the MVP, the professional, and he needs accountability. Haha. No, Embiid is not a smart enough player to win it all and spends too much time in the bathroom. I don't know if that's true. Do you think he has like double poops or something like that because he's such a big guy? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have brought that up. That's kind of silly. My dad's probably laughing right now. Let's see. Yeah, he's the MVP. Does the MVP need to have accountability? No, I think it's overall the team. And that's what the professional is trying to say. Let's be fair about what they said, MSJ. He's saying that Joel wants the accountability on the team because he feels like the rest of the guys aren't totally being accountable for not giving good effort. And I get that. But in some ways, is it like Joel might need to be accountable for some of the stuff he's doing. And he's deflecting onto the rest of the players. He's like, Nick, come in here and get these guys into shape. Well, actually, Joel, I need you to do this too. Maybe he's ready for the rest of the team to be accountable, but is Joel ready to be accountable himself? That is a big question mark in that whole thing right there. So I just want to clarify what the professional said is, Joel wants the accountability for everybody. Does he want it for himself, though? I don't know if he does. He may be like, I'm exempt because I am the MVP. I am the franchise player, Nick. You can tell them to go do suicides, but I'm not doing no suicides. I'll be sitting on the bench and watching them and you holding them accountable while I sit over here and just watch. Yeah, it may be like that. That's the kind of accountability that Joel wants. Make my guys run suicides and I'll sit and watch. Yeah, I could see that. Seriously. Randolph Phillips is saying, Lex, it's interesting to me how good players like Fred and Kawhi, who have a whole country behind them by being on the Raptors, would give that up. Strange thinking. I know. Everybody said that over and over again about Kawhi since he left. Dude, you had the whole country. You could have been the king of Canada and you walked away from that. In some ways, it's very weird, like story that Kawhi Leonard could have been the king of Canada, but he left the keys in the door and walked away. Fred understands this better in some ways. And in some ways, like Kyle, he probably will show the role model of Kyle and not leave things on a bad note. Even DeMar, with how ugly that exit was in some ways, he still has a really good legacy with us and a good relationship with the city of Toronto and the people and the fans. In some ways, he didn't have to do a statement or anything because he was hurt in some ways, like Nick is. But it's a different thing. DeMar did not sabotage the team to try and get out like Nick did. And that's the whole big problem with this is that Nick Nurse is a huge reason why he's gotten fired. And it's not like the same kind of situation as Casey or DeMar or any of that stuff. So, man, Nick in some ways has to worry about that. And maybe that's part of why he's sad. He's like, well, if it's going to be like this, I'll just turn my whole back on the country of Canada and Toronto and like everything that you built. You could have been a folk legend in Canada. You could have had a Canadian heritage moment. In like 50 years from now in a commercial, Nick Nurse, the coach of the Raptors, brought the Toronto Raptors to their first championship in 2019. Canadian heritage moment. Yeah, I don't know if you'll get that at this point, Nick, because some people may not be like about you at this point. Who knows? You're right, Randolph. This is a whole country you get. Scotty knows it. That's why Scotty's all about it. He's like, it's not just a city, it's the whole country. And he loves that. I told Scotty on his Twitch last year, I said, Scotty, you got the keys to this city. It's like you're the mayor of this town. You can do whatever the hell you want in this city. Honestly, Scotty. And he's like, you really, Raptors freak? And I was like, really? And it's like, yeah. And then he was like, I love Toronto. I'm all about it because he knows he's a king in this city. He can do whatever he wants. Let's see. Mike saying NBA and NPA Players Association agreed to eliminate restrictions that limited hang on, it jumped. Why did it jump like that? Agreed to eliminate restrictions that limited a team to 2 designated Supermax contract players on a roster. Teams weren't allowed to trade for a third Supermax player or sign one to a rookie. Okay, that's the good distinction. I know they changed with how many Supermaxes and Maxes you can have on your team recently with the new CBA, and that's good. All right, this is oh, there's Nick playing the Arkells. Man, what a what what an idiot. So he's playing with the Arkells. He said Nurse got in one more jam session with the Arkells. And that's the thing. All right, thanks for sharing that. I wanna see that. Man, what a punk ass, man. I don't care. Whatever. Like, seriously, he can go do that and he can do all this. Where's the statement, Nick? Where's the statement? Infamous is saying, I was watching a video on the Thompson twins. We need to target one of these prospects. The potential is through the roof. I feel like with the Twins, they should be on the same team. Like a team could be able to draft them both with the one spot. I just feel like you want to break them up. In some ways, it's like letting them be the Sedins out in Vancouver for the Canucks. Let these youngsters, these twins, be on a team. The Martins, Caleb, and whatever the other one, Kobe or whatever. They're not on the same team, but maybe they should be on the same team. I don't know. This is a weird situation. Like, it's weird to me. Like, which one's better, Amin or what's the other? Amar or Amin? I don't know. If we are getting around those picks around third or fourth, these guys may be one of the guys we get if we do trade to get one of these picks from Houston or Portland that people keep rumoring. Yeah, they do look kind of interesting. I saw a little bit of footage on them as far as things. I don't want to break them up. I don't know why. Wayne's saying, guys, I'm away and had no internet. Ooh, good to see Wayne's trainer, by the way. Just got connected yesterday. I missed 2 weeks of action. Kindly update me in 30 seconds. Well, Wayne, Nick Nurse is the coach of the Philadelphia 76ers as of Monday. Maybe you want to go back and we'll catch you up just on the fly as you're watching. There's a lot of hours. I mean, I did 3.5 hours yesterday. So, yeah, if you want to go back and watch me 24 straight to catch up over the last 2 weeks of action, yeah, there's a lot of streams there and there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of things that have changed really quickly in that amount of time, but we've been right there with it presently and going through it. So, Wayne, welcome back. Glad you're back on the internet and you can be back with us here. Mike saying their comment is if I'm there. Yeah, okay, you mean that if I'm there, and that Philly fans would think that means they're there with Nick, but he was talking about they're at the game Philly versus the Raps, not on the Philly team, but with the Raps. I don't think that's true, Mike. I think that he did mean on Philly. I saw it live, and when I watched it, I was like, he meant like if he's there with Nick on Philly. That's what he meant. He did mean that. And the Philly fans are reading it that way, and they should, because that is what he said. He said if he's not there with Nick, then he doesn't want him to be successful, and he'll be a failure, is what he said. If he's there with Nick, he doesn't want him to be a failure, is what he's saying. Mike is saying, okay, yeah, that's what I just read. Wayne saying a Raptors freak choice of teams are in the finals, and no doubt who we're cheering for. Our basketball IQ has proven to be above average. There you go, Wayne Strainer. Yeah, inflate my ego like Nick Nurse needs his ego inflated. Yes, our basketball IQ was right, and we got Denver and Miami in the finals. No Lakers, no Celtics, none of that bullshit. We got the Heat and the Nuggets in the finals, and our basketball IQs called it a couple weeks ago. I am getting more and more brain inflated like Nick. Ooh, I'm a maniac now. I'm crazy. That's good. It really is good to see you, Wayne. Cool Cat saying angst and fan base is that Raptors have not built a team around any player as yet after the chip. We see skills and improvement of each player, but no decision on who to build around as yet. Patience. I think it's just that Scotty is so early in his career. It's just we know it's Scotty. In some ways, people were saying Pascal. Pascal's kind of a bridge player between, Kawhi in the championship, or DeMar and Lowry. We could say that instead, to Scotty's era. That Pascal's kind of the in between era, and it's not totally clear. It's a muddled era in some ways, and part of it is Siakam, kind of being sheepish himself in kind of a weird way as a player. But in some ways, it's just, you're right. In some ways, it's not clear. I don't know if I really care about it being totally clear like that. I know the era that's coming up is the Scotty era, and we're honestly already in it. It's just, it's such early in its infancy that we don't really feel like the full effect of the Scotty era yet, because he hasn't fully grown into his full powers and what he's going to be able to do as an NBA player. Then we'll feel the Scotty Barnes era a lot stronger as he gets better and better and becomes more dominant NBA player. But right now, it is kind of like, it's partly because of the way we made the team being so equal with so many of the same type of players that it's ambiguous who is actually the leader. Is it OG? Is it Fred? Is it Pascal? In some ways, Pascal not being more like, I'm the man, and I'm, like being more like forthright and like really standing in that spot makes this kind of cloudy and weird. I don't know. It's tough to say. I think it is the Scotty era. It's just we're early in it. I think that it's very clearly Kyle Lowry and then Scotty Barnes era. Because Kyle Lowry left, we drafted Scotty Barnes. That's the really smooth cutoff. So everything with Kyle is the Kyle era before. And now, since Scotty came right at exactly when he left, it's the Scotty era after that. And that's the way I really look at it. Cool Cat saying Nick Nurse genuinely loves the city and the country with his wife and kids. 10 years in it, it will hurt personally to uproot the family and leave. Sure, I get all that. But motherfucker, you're in this profession. You know this is how it goes. This is the thing. NBA coaching is not easy. It's not fun, and it can be very stressful and thankless. We know this. That's why the guts, the glory, and everything is so hard to do. And that's why it's tough. And this is just part of it. I know maybe you weren't planning on leaving, but dude, you should have done things way better this season. If you really didn't want to leave Toronto, there were a few things you could have done differently that you would not have been in jeopardy of losing your job. And that's the thing that disappoints me the most is you shot yourself in the foot. And how much of it was the influence and advice of Clutch that led you to shooting yourself in the foot? That's what I wonder right now. It's too bad. It didn't have to be like this. He made it this way with his idiocy. And I hate it. He brought this pain on himself. Let's just put it that way. Monique is saying Scotty doing his first camp this summer. That's right. I keep forgetting to bring this up. Scotty's doing a camp next week in West Palm Beach, the Scotty Barnes camp down in Florida. So he's going to be teaching the kids and doing his first camp ever. You go, Scotty Barnes, with your Scotty Barnes camp coming up very soon. That's so awesome. Mike saying, converted to the good side. Great story, Cat. I love that. That's an amazing story that Cool Cat did that. Every little thing like that helps. Seriously. We got to come and fix things, whether it's on the basketball side with the Raptors or politically. There's so much misinformation and crazy ass people out there thinking some crazy ass things. Well, fact check them, give them the facts, and boom, and then all of a sudden, wow, okay, I never realized Siakam was like that and that. Okay, you know what? You make sense. Maybe I am being a little harsh on Pascal. It's that kind of thing. It'll work. It'll work. All right, let's see. Bradley's here under Anya's name. Good morning, Lex and Raptor Freaks. Everyone have a great day. Let's go, Raptors. You go, Bradley. You go, Anya. Have a great day. Ta-da. Come to your house and help you wash your windows. Ta-da. It's in the phone book. Bradley, you can come to your house and do things for you, like clean your rain gutters. Yeah. Mike's saying, I think people read the CBA rule wrong. That was a quote about the max contract change. It says they dropped the limit of max contracts. It stops the Simmons trade restrictions with trading for players. Okay. My eyes are glazing over with all that kind of stuff. The nitty gritty, small details of it. If it's not something that we have to deal with presently because of a specific situation that we got going on, I'm going to be like, oh, I want to go to sleep when we start talking about max contracts and what's allowed and stuff like that. But I am glad that you're interested in it, Mike, and that you can be a good resource with it. Because, man, I start yawning after you get into this too much. I mean, gosh, Anya's saying Nurse is a punk. That's right. Nurse is a punk playing his Arkells piano on his way out. The one last jam with the Arkells. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Fiercely saying Pascal posted signing a jersey with a nice caption and Gary Trent liked it. I'm happy because he rarely posts or likes stuff, so it may be a good sign. Gary's more active on media all of a sudden in these last couple of weeks, and I like it too. In fact, all the stuff I'm seeing from Gary is very positive about him being in Toronto still, and that is making me very happy. Let's see. Cool Cat saying Scotty has 2 camps, one in West Palm Beach and one here in Mississauga on June the 25th and 26th. There you go. So he's covering both bases. He's going to go down south and do one down in West Palm, and then he's got one here in Toronto and Mississauga also. That's fantastic. I love that. And Mike's got the whole designated rookie extension mess with Ben Simmons where you couldn't trade from certain other max players. That's gone now. So I don't know where the 2 max contract limit is. Not going to lie. W stream, sorry. No problem, Mike. Don't worry about it. Listen, we work through it. And sometimes what it is sometimes your comments are it's not that they're totally clear. It's just that I'm I don't know how to read this or understand this in some ways. And that's the issue is Mike's really thinking in his own head and he's writing something. I want to get it right and understand what you're trying to say. But sometimes I really got to be baby. Like I said, it's really easy, kind of short and simple, and just make your point and kind of cut all the other stuff out. But you're good, Mike. Honestly, I'm so impressed with what you did that I watched yesterday. I watched your clip on Pirtle and Barnes from their interview yesterday. You have just the perfect time. You got it so concise. Your delivery was so crisp and just on point. It sounded so professional. And you just did such a good job. And it's exactly like Cool Cat and the other people in the comments were saying, Mike. You just hit it out of the park on your last clip. In fact, in some ways, if you can replicate that kind of quality of professionalism with your stuff over and over again, you're going to be on your way, bro. Seriously. And Van Hoot, if you know more about the problems that happen with the Raptors, put it on your content. You're going to blow up your channel if you do this. If you really, really know something because you know someone on the inside with the source, get that content out, Mike. I mean, not Mike, Van Hoot. And you will make a huge leap in your subscriptions. Trust me, especially if you do it as clickbait in a certain way. The real reason why the Raptors suck this year from my source. Dude, I'm telling you, Van Hoot, you could do something. Mike, you're doing fantastic. I love that you did this stuff with the end of season interviews and you're doing them just right. The way that you espoused on Scotty's stuff from his interview is just magnificent. You really painted a good picture of what he's thinking and where he's at with things. And I really do appreciate what you're doing on your channel. It was seriously your best video ever in some ways, the one you did this weekend. Cool Cat saying Scotty's basketball summer camp in Florida date is July the 1st. So Canada first, then the USA. Okay, I got it mixed up. I saw the date the 1st, and I just figured he was doing it this week. So it's actually Canada Day. He's going to be in Florida for that. Well, you're not going to be here for Canada Day, Scotty. You got to be here for Canada Day, man. But yeah, this is cool. So this may mean that Scotty's actually going to be around Toronto for most of this month of June. If he's going to be doing a camp at the end of the month, maybe he's not going to be jumping around so much. Maybe he'll be working at OVO a lot, seeing what's going to go on with this draft, and also trying to be here to meet the new coach and be around him as soon as we hire him. So I have a feeling because Scotty's back from Dominican in the last couple of days that he may be in Toronto for most of the month of June. Maybe a couple of jet setting trips here and there, but I'll bet he'll be around right up until that camp. So we'll see. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining me today. Not too bad, just over 2 hours. I appreciate everybody in their comments. Really, really interesting thing. Watch the thing with Fred on the Sham show from yesterday. It's good stuff. And then, yeah, Nick, come on, man. Nav can't write the letter for you. You need to do the letter yourself, bro, and stop copping out on this. Seriously, the time is ticking. And the more and more I'm like, what the fuck is Nick doing? And I don't hear nothing from him, the more and more I'm going to be like, yeah, fuck Nick Nurse. Reminder, y'all, WNBA Fantasy League, there are games tonight. So be ready to put your lineup in and try and get some wins. Actually, maybe there aren't any games tonight. Are there games tonight? I can't tell. But just keep up on your WNBA fantasy because the season is going on and you need to have your players in to get the points. Yeah, there's no game tonight, but there will be a game tomorrow. So be ready for that one. Gerald, you're going down. Nacho the Nacho. Yeah, there you go. All right, y'all. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And let's go Raptors!